A team that has only had a football program for 17 years. In 2009, South Alabama held their first season in college football, even though they weren't associated with a conference. This wouldn't change until the 2012 season, where they would join the Sun Belt Conference. However, it hasn't been easy for the program to adjust, as they've only had 3 winning seasons in the last 14 years since joining the Sun Belt. In this rebuild, I will be taking over this South Alabama team with the goal of winning the first national championship in the school's history. Now, to start off this rebuild here, we're first going to take a look at the roster that we are given here in our first season. And it's going to start with the best player in our roster being an 89 overall, one of the best running backs in the conference, Kentrell Bullock. In his final season, he's up to an 89 overall. He's going to have to be the main freight train for this offense to keep us moving. But for the best defensive player on our team, it's going to be the junior linebacker, Blaine Myrick. He's up to an 84 overall. He's going to have to do most of the work on the defense if we even want a chance at staying in games. But other than those guys, we only have 5 other players either at or above 80 overall on this team. We've got a receiver, a corner, a linebacker, a guard, and another running back on this roster. So the two-headed monster in the backfield is going to have to carry us on offense, and our linebacking group is going to have to carry us on defense. But for this rest of the roster, we have 279 overalls and then nobody else over 77. So this roster really falls off a cliff. A ton of holes to fill in through the rest of this roster as we continue to go throughout this rebuild. A huge challenge in front of us to continue to build up this roster. But now for the second thing we have to take a look at here in our first week is going to be the schedule. As we do have a Sun Belt schedule, but we have to take on an FCS school in week 1, Tulane in week 2, and then our toughest matchup is going to be at Auburn in week 3. Then we have a conference game at home versus Coastal Carolina, and then at North Texas to round out our non-conference. Then for the rest of conference play, we have at Troy, heading into a bye week, going back home for Arkansas State, then at Georgia State, home versus Louisiana, heading into our final bye week of the season. Then we've got at UL Monroe, home versus Southern Miss, and our final game of the season will be at Texas State. A solid schedule, a schedule you would expect out of a Sun Belt schedule. But now we're going to set up our board and head into our first week of this rebuild. Now, as we head into the very first week of this rebuild, we have a couple of things to take a look at here before we jump into this rebuild. The first thing is going to be taking a look at our recruiting class for season 1, as we're targeting some 4 and 5 stars who aren't getting offers from top schools, while also targeting some 3 stars so we can at least have some players coming in from high school. And it's going to start with 2 quarterbacks, 3 receivers, a tight end, a right tackle, and a defensive tackle. The 5 stars, we're the only ones giving them offers, and we're slowly starting to climb up their boards. Same with the 4 stars, but we have a little bit of a better chance as our pipelines are better and the schools going after them don't have our kinds of deals. But the 3 stars, we're the only ones giving them offers, just trying to bring in the best players. If we can find gems, that would be great for us. But now the second thing we have to talk about, we've got to go back to our schedule, because in all of my rebuilds, I only play 3 games per season while simming through the rest. And then once we get to the conference championship games and the playoffs, I will sim through the first couple of quarters, jump to the final minutes of the fourth quarter, where we watch through to see if our team can get the job done. And in season 1, we will start off in week 3, where we will travel to Auburn, see how this team can play against an SEC level opponent. Now, for the other 2 games, I try to get rivalry games in, as the only real rivals that this team has after only being in the Sun Belt Conference for just over a decade. It'll be week 6, where we'll travel to Troy in the battle for the belt. Now, for our final game, South Alabama doesn't have really another rivalry game that they play, but one that is slowly starting to develop is Southern Mississippi. Try and get a home game here in season 1, so we'll get our final rivalry game in week 13 against Southern Mississippi. A pretty solid schedule to start out our first season. But now the final thing that we have to talk about here in our first week is the goals for this rebuild. And our very first goal is the obvious goal in this rebuild. We have to win a national championship with South Alabama. The whole goal of all these rebuilds is to take a team from the bottom of college football and bring them to the top. Here for South Alabama, it'd be their first national championship in school's history. So in these years, we've got to get it done. Our second challenge is going to be to get a Heisman Trophy winner. In the years that South Alabama has had a football program, they have never had a Heisman Trophy winner. And in the Sun Belt Conference, it's going to be even tougher to get a Heisman Trophy winner. But in all of my rebuilds, there's one restriction. We are only going to have a maximum of 6 years to get it done. We can get both challenges done earlier, but no later than 6 years. But now, we're going to go ahead, sim to our first game. It will be against Auburn. Now, as we head into the Auburn game here in week 3, nothing has really changed as we've only simmed through 2 weeks, but we are currently 1-1 as we would beat the FCS team 38-7 in week 1, but then nearly lose to the same exact score in week 2 as we would lose 36-7 to Tulane. But for us, nothing has really changed in recruiting. We're inside some top 5s here, so we're able to give out some pitches to these 3-star quarterbacks and this 4-star receiver. But for the 5 stars, we're up to number 1 as nobody is still giving these guys an offer other than us. For this right tackle and defensive tackle, we're also inside the top 5, so no real big changes yet. But now we're going to head into our first game of this rebuild as we are going to travel to Auburn. Here on 4th and 3, we'll bring out the field goal unit to give us a 3-point lead on our first drive. 3rd and 7, going back to the air, taking a shot towards that right side, and the corner's going to jump the route. It's going to be intercepted, and they could return this for a pick 6. Here on 4th and inches, the field goal team will come out to make it a 7-point game for Auburn. 3rd and 10 from midfield. We're dropping back to pass. That's a deep shot downfield. It's going to be intercepted, thrown behind his receiver. And Auburn can take this to distance again, and that's their second pick 6 of the game. 3rd and 6. We're going back to the air. Dropping back. It's going to hit our lineman in the head and be intercepted. And that's the 3rd pick 6 of the game. 2nd and goal from the 4 for Auburn. Still looking for their first offensive touchdown of the game as they're going with Cobb. And they have a rushing touchdown, and their lead might have just shut the door on us. On the kickoff, as we're now down by 28 points. Try and get a solid return with Phillips. Off to the left side he goes. Phillips finds a lane. He gets some space across midfield. He's got one more man to beat. Can he get across? He's across the 20 inside the 10, and our first touchdown of the game comes at the hands of the kickoff team. 1st and 10 for Auburn. They're going to go with a run off to the left side with Cobb. Cobb's got a running lane. His best run of the game as he crosses midfield. I don't even know if we have enough speed to catch him as he's going to go all the way to the end zone on the very first play. 2nd and 1. We're going to go with our first screen play of the game. Dump it off. Get Bullock out into space. Bullock's going to keep on going across the 30. He should have enough speed to go all the way to the end zone. That's our second touchdown of the 4th quarter. 2nd and 12. Going with play action. It's a fumble picked up by Auburn, and that is their 4th defensive touchdown of the game. Here on 1st and 10, Auburn will take a knee in one of the weirdest games I've played before. 4 defensive touchdowns for Auburn, and if you take all 4 of those off the board, we've got a tie game. But that's just not how this game went. Our run game was non-existent, but for them, Jeremiah Cobb went over 130 with 2 touchdowns. And I guess it's what you can expect for a Sun Belt versus SEC matchup, but We've got to limit the turnovers for the rest of the season and the rest of this rebuild. But now we've got our second rivalry game to sim to, as now we have to go play Troy. Now, after that Auburn game, we have simmed on here to the game against Troy in week 6, the battle for the belt as we will be traveling to Troy. Now, after that Auburn game, we had our ups and downs as we went 1-1, beating Coastal Carolina at home 21-14, but then getting destroyed at North Texas the very next week. So just kind of fluctuating up and down, kind of expecting that. But for us in recruiting, unfortunately, that Auburn game tanked our recruiting rankings as we got locked out from 4 players after that Auburn game, and we are struggling to get back in with their play styles. But we've got some extra backup guys down here. As we're flying up somebody's boards, we should be able to land a couple of commits in the next couple of weeks. But now we're going to jump into this game to see if we can win our first Battle of the Belt trophy against Troy. Second and 6 from just shy of the 20 for Troy. They're going to go with the ground game for the first time. Is they're going to get a first down, spin out of a move, hurdle a man across the 50, and they could go all the way to the end zone on just the second play. Third and 10, we're going back to the air. Dropping back to pass, going over the middle of the field. We've got an open Bullock out of the backfield, and Bullock's going to find the end zone to tie this game up at 7. Here on 4th and 9, we'll bring out the field goal unit to give us a 3-point lead against Troy. Third and 7, Troy's going back to the air over the middle of the field. They've got an open receiver. He's inside the 10, inside the end zone. First and 10 from the 11. Going over the air, we should have a wide open tight end, as actually that's the receiver. It's going to be eager into the end zone for a touchdown, and we'll take our lead back before the end of the half. First and 10 inside the 10. Going with the ground game. Bullock's got a lane. Where's everybody going as he's going to find his way into the end zone for the first double-digit lead of the game. First and goal from the 4. Trying to get Bullock his 3rd rushing touchdown of the game as he swims his way up the middle, and he's going to find it as our lead is growing quickly here against Troy. First and 10 from the 16. Troy going with play action. Going to the end zone. They've got an open receiver, and they're going to get this game back within 10 points. First and goal from the 2. Looking for the 4th rushing touchdown, and we're going to get it as Bullock motors his way into the end zone, and we get our 17-point lead right back. 4th and 9 for Troy. They're going for it as they know their game could end on this drive if they don't convert. Going one-on-one on the outside, and it's going to be picked off by Young. Young looking to return this to the end zone as he gets a block back to the 40. 3rd and goal. We might have a foot between us and our 5th rushing touchdown, and Bullock's going to find it, and that officially shuts the door on Troy's chances of winning this game. First and 10 for our offense. Bring them out to take a knee in a game that won 45-21 in the first rivalry game of this rebuild. A huge bounce back game after that loss to Auburn. The passing game and the run game was huge for us, going for over 350 yards passing and 155 yards rushing with 5 rushing touchdowns for Bullock. That's huge for us as we continue to go throughout conference play. But for us, we've got one more rivalry game left to play in this season. It's going to be against Southern Miss. Now, after we beat up on Troy in the previous week, we have simmed on here to our final rivalry game of the season against 9-1 Southern Miss, having the best season in the Sun Belt Conference, as after that game against Troy, we'd have a bye week heading back home for Arkansas State where we'd put up 47 points. Then we would put up another 40 points at Georgia State in a win the very next week. before we headed back home for a Louisiana team where we would lose by just 1 point. Then another bye week would give us another game of over 40 points as we traveled to UL Monroe and won by 2 points. So now heading into the Southern Miss game, we already have a bowl game locked up for this season, but this could be our biggest game of the season as we could ruin Southern Miss's chances of making a playoff game. But now in the recruiting side of things, we have landed our first couple of recruits as we have landed a 3-star quarterback, a 3-star right tackle, a 3-star defensive tackle, and a 3-star corner. As we're looking to land some of these other guys, try and get back within their deal breakers because we are still the only one giving them an offer. But now we've got to head into this game to see if we can spoil Southern Miss's perfect conference record. First and 10 from our logo for Southern Miss, who continues to go with hurry-up offense. So dropping back, they've got a wide-open receiver who's inside the 20, and he's going all the way to the end zone. First and goal from the 1 for Southern Miss. Keeping it on the ground, Braxton, he's going to go all the way into the end zone, and that's a 2-touchdown lead for the Eagles. First and 10 from the 12. Still looking for our first points of the game as we're going to roll out. We have a wide open receiver underneath. Voisin inside the 2, inside the end zone to cut Southern Miss's lead in half. With just about 4 minutes left. Going to go with a motion man inside, going back to the ground game as Bullock finds a lane. Bullock keeps on going across midfield, and Bullock with enough speed should go all the way to the end zone to tie this game up at 14. 4th and goal from the 1. We just need about a foot to get our first lead of the game, and Bullock's going to get it. Great blocking there, and we'll take our first 7-point lead of the game. First and 10 from the 39. Dropping back to pass, looking deep downfield is Braxton. Braxton going to step up, taking a shot, but it's going to be intercepted by Henderson. We'll get the ball back as we're going to look to return this for a touchdown. Henderson's going to go. He's got one offensive lineman to beat all the way back to the left side, and we've got 28 straight points against Southern Miss. 3rd and 9 from the 19. It's going to be another pass for Southern Miss. One-on-one over the top of the defense, and he's got an open receiver who's going all the way to the end zone for their first point since the first quarter. Here on 4th and 9, we'll bring up the field goal unit. I don't know if he's got 47 yards in him, but we'll hope, as that's right down the middle. 4th and 16, and the field goal unit will look to make it a 7-point game. 2nd and goal from the 5. It's going to be another pass for Southern Miss over the middle, and that's a touchdown to tie this game up at 31. Here on 4th and goal, they'll take a field goal for the first points of overtime. Here on 4th and 16, we'll bring up the field goal unit to tie this game up. And it's good. Here on 4th and 10, we'll take another field goal here in the second overtime. 3rd and 7 from the 8. It's another pass for Southern Miss. They're likely looking for the end zone. They're going for it, and they're going to win the game on a touchdown. A crazy game in the Sun Belt, an overtime game to end our regular season. But we did get 6 wins, and we do have one more regular season game. But now we're going to go ahead and sim to our bowl game. Now, after losing to Southern Miss in heartbreaking fashion, we have simmed on to our bowl week this season, where our 6-6 South Alabama team will be taking on another 6-6 team. It will be Miami, Ohio, out of the MAC conference. But for us, we had one more game after that Southern Miss game. It would be at Texas State in a game that we would lose 59-24. You just can't win games when your defense is giving up 59 points. But we can get our get back and look for our 7th win against Miami, Ohio in the Ventures Bowl. But before we jump into the game, take a look at our early national signing day because we have landed a couple of recruits. This three-star quarterback who unfortunately has normal development, but for the other guys on our board, this right tackle has star dev, this defensive tackle, this corner, and this free safety all have impact development. So it's a solid start to our recruiting cycle. But now we've got to end our season to see if we can get our seventh and final win before we head into the off season. Now, as we jump into this game, we'll have a first and 10, but unfortunately, we're down by a ton. A 34-13 game that Miami, Ohio has dominated the entire time. We just scored our first touchdown on the previous drive. But now Davenport's going to drop back the pass once again, going over the middle, off to the right side now. That's a beautiful ball, but Davenport's throwing 2 picks in this game. Only 1 touchdown and just over 150 yards after that passing play. But now as we're inside the final 3 minutes, Davenport's going back to the air. Stepping up, he's running out of time, so he'll just dump it off to Bullock, who's going to get a solid chunky yards there. Looks to be about 8 as we continue to hurry up to get back to the line. As the clock continues to roll inside 2.5 minutes, it's going to be another pass for Davenport. He's going to go on a slant, and it's going to be dropped. The clock is finally stopped at 2 minutes and 28 seconds. From just shy of the 50, it's going to be a handoff. Bullock trying to fight his way for a first, but he's going to be held just short. And we're going to hurry it back to the line. 4th and 1 in what could be our final play of the game if we cannot convert. Davenport's going to get the ball in his hands. He's going towards the sideline, a jump ball. It's going to be batted down, and Miami, Ohio will get the ball back. But we're inside the final 10 seconds. Wouldn't be surprised if Miami, Ohio just let this clock run down, as we're going to hit triple zeros to end our very first season. A season where we end 6 and 7, are going to lose our best players after graduation. We're going to need to fill in a ton of holes in this roster. The offensive line needs to continue to get better. We're going to have to bring in a new quarterback possibly and completely revamp this defense. Now, as we head into our first transfer portal cycle in this rebuild, I have gone on and filled out the rest of my board with transfer portal players. As it starts with the only 4 stars that I have on the board, a quarterback and a running back. Trying to get as much star power as we can, but we also filled out the rest of the board with 2 more running backs, 2 receivers, 7 offensive linemen. Our biggest problem throughout the season was our offensive line could not block. Some of the most sacks in the conference, the most quarterback pressures in the entire conference, so we need to beef up the line. Now on the defensive side, we have 2 edge rushers, a defensive tackle, and then our biggest need is 7 linebackers. We lost the most linebackers to both the NFL and to transferring. So we're going to need to completely revamp this group while also bringing in 3 corners and a free safety to round out our board. A crap ton of needs for us. So we're going to go ahead, sim to our very final week of the transfer portal to see if we can land all of our recruits. Now, after 4 weeks of off-season recruiting, I ended up landing nearly a full board of 35 recruits, with the first 8 coming out of high school and 2 of them being 4 stars, one of them being this receiver and another being an athlete. But for the transfer portal, I ended up landing a quarterback, 3 running backs, 2 receivers, 3 offensive linemen with 4 of them currently uncommitted. Hopefully we can land all 4 of these after this week. But on the defensive side, we landed 2 edge rushers, a defensive tackle, 6 linebackers. One of them ended up going to Miami, Ohio. Then 3 corners and a free safety to round out our board, with our class ending up landing at number 1 in the Sun Belt. It's only 45th in the entire nation, but 2 4-stars and 28 3-stars is a huge step in the right direction for us. We should be able to land more after this week. But now we're going to go ahead and sim on to season 2. Now, as we head into season 2 here, We're going to start off with some pretty high expectations heading into the season, as this roster has improved all the way up to a 79 overall with an 81 overall defense. Possibly the best defense in the entire Sun Belt Conference, but with easily the best linebacking core in the entire conference, as all of our starting linebackers are above an 86 overall, with two of them being above an 87. Easily the best linebacking core and probably the best defensive group in the conference. But for the offensive side of the ball, our first playmaker is going to be the running back 86 overall Jordan Lyle, who's got 94 speed. Should be great for us in the backfield. But now for the other playmakers, our wide receiver 1 TJ West is up to an 84, and Brendan Jenkins, our wide receiver 2, is up to an 83 overall. They'll be catching the ball for our quarterback. I'm not going to start the senior Pyron, as he's only one overall higher than the freshman who will be here for multiple years, as he's got 84 speed and should be able to develop well throughout the rest of this rebuild. But for the rest of this roster, we've got some low 80 overalls to keep rounding out this team, with some high 70 overalls to fill in the rest of this holes on this roster. But now for the schedule that we'll be taking on here in Season 2. It starts off with another SEC opponent, this time in Week 0, as we will travel to Kentucky in our very first game that we'll jump into and play. Then we have home versus an FCS team at Tulane, and home versus Ohio to round out our non-conference schedule. Then we have our first bye week of the season. Heading into conference play, we'll start with 4 home games. In Week 5 versus UL Monroe, at home versus App State, and then at home in the Battle for the Belt game, our second game that we'll jump into, it'll be against Troy once again. Then we'll have home versus Texas State, heading into our final bye week of the season, where we will have 4 straight road games. And we'll start off by jumping into our third game of the season at Southern Mississippi. Then we'll have at Old Dominion, at Louisiana, and at Arkansas State to round out our season. Hopefully we can run through this conference and this schedule and end up in the Sun Belt Championship game for the first time in this rebuild. I think this team can get it done. But now we're going to set up our board and head into Week 0, where we play against Kentucky. Now, as we head into Week 0 here, we will be traveling to Kentucky, a game that we are going to jump into. But first, I want to take a look at recruiting, as I'm going for one of the weirdest strategies I've ever gone for in recruiting. For the players out of high school, I only want to bring in the 4 and 5 star talents or the 3-star gems who can develop and become superstar players in the later half of this rebuild. So I am only targeting 3 players at the moment. 2 of them are 4 stars with no offers. Unfortunately, I can't go after any 5 stars and most of the 4 stars, as we don't meet their deal breakers yet. But I'm hoping after this season, hopefully we can make the Sun Belt Championship, and our championship contender and every other grade can skyrocket up so we can get those big time players later in this rebuild. So I've only gone after a running back, a receiver, and a defensive tackle at the moment, trying to find more gems down here at the bottom of my board. But now we're going to go ahead and jump into this game to see if we can start our season with a win against Kentucky. 2nd and 9 for Kentucky, as they're making some adjustments here just shy of the 20. Going with play action, dropping back the pass, going out to the outside. It's going to be intercepted. We've got a corner out there on a horrible throw from Kentucky, and we're inside the 5. After the interception, we have 1st and goal from the 1. Trying to find the first 6 points of the game, and Lyle's going to push his way through, and that's a pretty easy way to get on the scoreboard first. 3rd and 14 after the sack. Kentucky's still looking for 7 points as they're dropping back to pass. Going all the way to the end zone, targeting one-on-one with our user, and it's going to be picked off in the end zone. Here on 4th and 4, we'll bring up the field goal unit to make it a 10-point game. 2nd and 3, and Kentucky's going with an RPO. Out to the right side, they've got an open receiver with a ton of space, and our 5 guys out there can't catch him. And Kentucky gets on the scoreboard before the end of the first half. First and 20 after the penalty. We're dropping back the pass, going to the sideline as we should have an open man, but instead he's not going to come back. It's going to be picked off, and Kentucky's going to get a pick six to end the half. First and 10 from just across midfield. We're dropping back the pass. We have a wide open receiver. That's eager across the 30, and he's going all the way to the end zone, and we've got our lead back. First and goal as we're trying to get Dahl in the end zone, but instead we're going to go out to the outside, and that's eager into the end zone, and our double-digit lead is back to 10. First and 10 from the 20 for Kentucky. They're going with play action, dropping back to pass. Lowry looking for something. He's throwing it right at our user, and Rogers is going to pick it off, and we're looking for the end zone as we're back inside the Kentucky 20. We're closing in on the end of the third quarters. We're going back to the ground game. We should find a lane. Dahl up the middle. Dahl inside the 5, and Dahl into the end zone. And our lead is now up to 17 against the Wildcats. Third and 5 from inside the 10. To put the game away, we're dropping back to pass. Rolling out with Tolson. Nobody's going to go after him. He's just going to walk into the end zone. And that should officially put the end to the Wildcats. Now, after dismantling Kentucky in week 0, we've gone 3-2 since then. As after that Kentucky game, we would rattle off 2 more wins where we would win at home versus an FCS team and then at Tulane by just 3 points. But then we would head back home and lose by 15 to Ohio, heading into our bye week where we'd come back home for a UL Monroe team and beat them 38-7. But then the very next week, we would lose 37-14 to App State. So now heading into the battle for the belt game against Troy, we're looking to get back on the right path and get back in the win column. But with a 4-2 start, it's helped us in recruiting a decent amount, as we haven't landed anybody yet, but we're inside the top 5 for 2 4-stars. This wide receiver here, we're the only one giving him an offer, but for this running back, we currently have a week 7 visit, as we need to win this game if we want to pull away from Auburn and take this recruit away. But we're also into some other battles, as we're going after another receiver, 2 guards, and we've found some gems here in the 3-stars. But that will likely have a bigger impact later in the season. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our second battle for the belt game as we look to go back-to-back against Troy. Now we'll have first and 10 to start this game. Going with a handoff as Dahl's going to find a lane. Dahl's going to go on the very first play. He's already across midfield looking for the end zone as he's across the 20. And on the very first play of the game, Dahl's going all the way to the end zone to give us 6. First and 10. Troy's going to keep it on the ground with their quarterback. He's going to find some space on the outside. He's going to make a man miss, get trucked. He's going to fumble the football, and we're going to recover it as we'll get a chance to return it here with Callahan. Callahan down the sideline, and the mistakes for Troy keep piling on, and we'll take a 2-touchdown lead off the fumble. 2nd and 18 for Troy after the sack. They're going with play action, dropping back to pass, running out of time, and it's going to be a safety, and we'll take a 16-0 lead. 3rd and goal from inside the 6. We're going to the pass, dropping back as we're targeting the back of the end zone. It could have been overthrown, but instead it's going to be a jump ball touchdown, and our lead's going to grow to 23-0. 1st and 10 for Troy. They're going with play action, dropping back to pass, looking for something deep. They're going one-on-one towards the end zone, but we've got Callahan back there, and he's just going to pick it off for free. 2nd and 10. Going back with the ground game, as this time it's going to be Dahl. Dahl, who had the long touchdown to start the game, is off to the races to the 40, and his 2nd long rushing touchdown of the game gives us 30 points in the first half. We'll come out here on 4th and 15 to kick a field goal to take a 33-0 lead. They're going with play action, dropping back, going to dump it out to the motion man who breaks a tackle inside the 5, breaking another tackle, and Troy is finally in the end zone for their first points of the game. Forrest and 10 just before the end of the third quarter. Going with a handoff. Lyle up the middle inside the 5, pushing his way into the end zone, and we've scored 40 points here against Troy. 3rd and 8 for Troy, and they're dropping back to pass once again. Looking for the sideline. It's going to be jumped up by Aguirre and intercepted, and we're going to get another pick 6 against Troy. 3rd and 4, we're going with play action. Once again, dropping back, rolling out. That's a dumb ball. It's going to be intercepted. And we may have just given Troy their second touchdown on a dumb pick 6. 2nd and goal from the 4. We're going back to the ground game. Up the middle is a cut from Lyle. And Lyle will finally get back into the end zone to officially put the end to this game as we're over 50 points. We'll come out here on 1st and 10 for one final play. Have some fun, throw it up there, see if somebody can come down with it. Go all the way to the end zone. It's going to be TJ West up there. And that will fall for an incompletion. Be the end of the game. The Battle of the Belt trophy comes back home for back-to-back years as we'll get a 54-17 win. Our defense played fantastic. Just a couple of late game blunders that made this game look a little bit closer than it actually was. Just having some fun as Ben Dahl only had a couple of carries for over 160 yards as he had a ton of rushing yards on 2 very big plays for 2 touchdowns. A huge step in the right direction as now we're just 1 game shy of a bowl appearance. Now, as we head into week 10 here, after beating up on Troy, we would only have 1 more game to play before we jumped into the Southern Miss game, as we would play against the worst team in the conference in the Texas State Bobcats, but we would only win by just 1 point, 22-21. So now after a bye, we've got this Southern Miss game, our final rivalry game on the season, and it's a huge one. We are currently tied with them at 3-1, which is first place in the conference. It is currently a 3-way tie between us, Arkansas State, and Southern Miss. So winning this game could plummet them down in the rankings and leave us with one final game of the season against Arkansas State. Unfortunately, we won't have an impact on that game. So we're going to go ahead, jump into this game to see if we can take down Southern Miss and push our way up in the conference standings. Forrest and 10 from the 27. Going to motion a receiver inside and go with a handoff up the middle as Dahl makes a man miss, cuts all the way to the left side and all the way to the end zone to give us the first 6 points of the game. 4th and goal from the 2. Trying to muster our way into the end zone with the ground game as Lyle goes up the middle. Lyle pushes forward to give us a 2-touchdown lead in the first quarter. Forrest and goal from the 9. Motioning a tight end off to the left side here as he's going back. Going with play action. Rolling out here with the freshman. We've got a man in the back of the end zone. Can we get it to him? And it's going to be TJ West with our 3rd touchdown here in the first half. Going with a play inside. Going to start with a handoff up the middle. Dahl gets a block downfield. Dahl on the very first play of our 4th drive is going to go to the end zone to give us 4 straight touchdowns. 1st and 5. Here for Southern Miss, so dropping back to pass. Looking for something. It's going to be a fumble. We're going to pick it up, and we're just going to walk into the end zone as we'll get our 5th touchdown. Forrest and 10 as Southern Miss is putting themselves a solid drive together. As they're dropping back, going over the middle of the field, and what a drive for Southern Miss to get on the scoreboard. Forrest and 10 from the 32. Dropping back to pass. A man wide open over the middle of the field. That's Eager. He gets a block, and he finds the end zone, and we've already got over 40 points in the first half. Forrest and 10 from inside the 15. Going with a handoff. This time it's Lyle. Lyle up the middle, cutting inside the 5, finding the end zone, and we're going to go for 2 to see if we can get to 50 points. First and 10 from our own 19. Starting with the run game as Dahl's got a running lane off to the right side. Does he have enough speed? He's across the 50. And Dahl just gets every single long rushing touchdown you can imagine as we'll go up 57-7. First and 10 from our 39. Southern Miss going to the air, dropping back, running out of time. He stiff arms two mans and still gets the ball out inside the 5. And how did Southern Miss find that touchdown? 3rd and 1 from inside the 4. Going with a motion man here as we're going to keep it in the hands of the freshman quarterback who's going to cut up the middle and find his way into the end zone. And we've scored a touchdown on 9 straight drives. Here on 4th and goal from the 3. Going to go to the air. Rolling out here with the freshman, trying to see if he can get to the sideline. He's got enough speed to just walk into the end zone, and we've scored 71 points. 2nd and 9 here after the 2-minute warning. Going to motion a man out here. Keep it on the ground with their quarterback as he finds a little bit of running lane. He's going to fumble again, and we're going to pick it up again. We'll come out here for 3rd and 7. This play is going to end the game, but we're just going to go to the end zone, see if we can get 79 points. Rolling around here. It's going to be a fumble. Nobody can pick it up. It'll be picked up by Southern Miss, but that doesn't matter. The clock hits triple zeros. That's going to end our final regular season game that we can jump into and play. 71-14 the final score as Dahl went over 240 with 3 touchdowns. One of the highest scoring Heisman games that I've ever played before, as Southern Miss's defense just could not stop anything we had for them on offense. A great game from us, as now we still have 3 more conference games. But hopefully the next time I update you guys, it will be in the Sun Belt Conference Championship game. Now, after dismantling Southern Mississippi in our final rivalry game of the season, we did make the conference championship game. As after that rivalry game, we would have 3 more games to play as we would travel to Old Dominion, win 31-17, then travel to Louisiana, win 31-13. But unfortunately, in the game that I thought was going to be the biggest game of the season, we ended up losing to Arkansas State by just 7 points. But after that update during that Southern Mississippi game, Arkansas State would go on a losing streak and fall all the way down to 4th in the conference standings. So now we took the top spot at a 6-2 conference record and will be taking on the winner from the east side of the Sun Belt. It'll be App State, who is currently 5-3 in conference and 7-5 overall. But we are no stranger to this App State team. As taking a look at this schedule again, in week 6, we ended up losing to this App State team 37-14. So we've already lost to this team earlier in the season, but now we're going to jump into this game to see if we can get our revenge against App State. We'll jump into this game with a 1st and 10 for our offense. Currently up by just 4 points after we just recovered a fumble from App State. But Ben Dahl is going to lose 2 yards on that play. Brings up 2nd and 12 for our offense. I'm expecting us to go to the airs. That's exactly what we're doing. Dropping back, going over the middle of the field, and it's a turnover. An interception. We were within field goal range. We could have taken a touchdown lead. But App State's going to get the ball back with a chance to go down and score. They don't need a field goal. They need a touchdown. The only way to take the lead is they're going to start with a handoff. A good play there to get them down after only 5. But it looks like we've already given up almost 130 yards rushing on less than 10 carries. Need to be better in the run game as it looks like they're going to go back to him, but we take him down. Hopefully he's going to lose yards, and he will. A yard loss for App State. And now on 3rd and 6. Going to be an empty backfield for their quarterback as they're dropping back to pass. Looking over the middle of the field, and it's intercepted. Trading turnovers. That's going to be 3 straight. And we'll get the ball back across midfield at about the 40. I said it coming into this game. Our linebacking core is taking a huge step up after we've brought in a couple of transfers. And we're going to go with a handoff to Dahl, who's going to get a couple of yards. But that linebacking core is coming up huge for us. Could have just sealed the game, sealed App State's fate, and give us our first Sun Belt Conference championship. As we're going with another handoff, that looks to be Lyle who gets a first down, and that's another timeout for App State. Come out here. 2 minutes and 20 seconds left until we're conference champions. Gonna motion Lyle out of the backfield here. They're sending pressure. We're going over the middle once again, but this time it's gonna be a first down. As there's App State's final timeout. They've got the 2 minute warning to rely on, and then they're done. It's a handoff to Lyle, who breaks the tackle, makes a man miss, holds himself shy of that first down, and will hit the 2 minute warning. A first down ends it. A stop could give the ball back to App State with a chance to go down and score. But with a yard to go until we're conference champions, we're just going to hand it off to Lyle. Lyle finds the first down, and he holds himself out of the end zone. And we'll come out here to take a knee. A pretty scrappy win. Our defense showing their flair as we'll take a knee, get a 4-point win, 13-9 the final score, as we get our revenge against App State. And hopefully this is enough to get a college football playoff bid. But if we don't get that final spot, we'll have a bowl game to end our season. Now, after winning our conference championship game, we have simmed on here to our bowl game, as unfortunately our record wasn't good enough to make the college football playoffs. So now we will be taking on 25th ranked 12-1 Ohio, a team that went perfect in conference play and even beat us earlier in the season. We played them in week 3, lost 35-20. But we also played App State earlier in the season. We ended up beating them in our second time around. So we're looking to do the same exact thing, as we're going to go ahead and jump into this game to see if we can get our revenge against the Ohio Bobcats. Now, as we jump into this game, we have a 1st and 10 from the Ohio 12, but unfortunately we're down by 17 points. So stepping up, cut over the middle, and of course we jump into the game and we throw an interception. This could go all the way back for 6, but we've got enough speed to take him down. An interesting way to end out our season, as Ohio will likely just try and run this clock out. I don't even know if we'll take any timeouts, as we should likely know that our season looks to end in a loss as they're spinning out of tackles, breaking even more tackles. And yeah, we'll let it hit the 2-minute warning. No timeouts to be used. Hopefully, with some more transfer portal additions in the offseason and with some huge upgrades from our pretty young roster, we can come back next year and maybe fight for a college football playoff spot. But the clock is going to roll down to triple zeros. That will be the end of the Veterans Bowl. We'll lose 24-7 back-to-back years with a bowl game loss. So I guess next year we're just looking for a bowl game win. So now we're going to head into our second off season. Now, as we head into our first week of off-season recruiting, I've gone on and set up my board with 31 total transfer players. It's a lot to ask for, but we're trying to bring in as much talent as possible to keep moving this team in the right direction and possibly start winning next season. And it starts with 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 2 tight ends, and 6 offensive linemen. Now on the defensive side, we've got 2 edge rushers, 2 defensive tackles, 4 linebackers, 6 corners, and then 2 safeties to round out our board. It's a ton of players on our board, a ton of hours being spread around, but hopefully we can land a ton of players. So now we're going to go ahead, sim on to our final week of off-season recruiting to see who I can land. Now, after 4 weeks of the transfer portal, I ended up landing 33 of 35 total players on my board, with the first 4 coming from high school. This running back and receiver are the 4 stars. and this guard and center are the 3-star gems. Now, for the rest of the players, they came from the transfer portal. The first two were quarterbacks, then two running backs, three receivers, two tight ends, five offensive linemen on the offensive side. Now, on the defensive side, we landed two edge rushers, two defensive tackles, four linebackers, five cornerbacks, a free safety, and a strong safety. Unfortunately, a left tackle is going off to LSU, and a Mike linebacker is going off to Oklahoma State. So we didn't land a full board, but this board was good enough to land the number one class in the Sun Belt once again. This time we're up at 37th in the entire country after landing 3 4-stars and 33 stars. A very solid class with most of these players having impact development. One of them had star development. Unfortunately, a few of them had normal development. But it is a great class once again. Another huge step in the right direction. We should be able to upgrade these guys to stars and possibly go undefeated in the Sun Belt next season. But now we're going to go ahead, sim on another week, upgrade our players, and then sim into season 3. Now, as we head into season 3 here, we're heading into the season with the highest expectations that I've had all rebuild long, as this team is now up to an 89 overall, with one of the best defensive players in all of college football, possibly the best corner in all of college football, in Xavier Brown, the number one transfer portal player, just transferred here from Michigan. He is a 97 overall with 94 speed. But you can't forget about the rest of our defense, as the transfer from Georgia, Chris Jones, is up to an 89, and some more help in the secondary as the transfer from Ball State, Zach Lutmer, is up to an 88 as well. But for the rest of the defense, we've got guys like Sevillano Jr., Delane, and Johnson who are up to an 85 overall with some extra help down there as well. But the offensive side could possibly be even better, as our wide receiver 1, TJ West, is up to a 90 overall, and his running mate on the other side, the wide receiver 2, Eric Smith, another transfer, is up to an 88 overall with 90 speed. But the running game should be even better this year, as we had a split backfield last season between Lyle and Dahl, but Lyle seems to be running away with it this season, as he's up to an 88 overall with 96 speed. But for the rest of this roster, we've got a ton of mid 80 overall players, some low 80 overall players, and some of those players might even be sitting the bench this season. But the big thing heading into the season is the quarterback, as we will have the same man running out there, going from his freshman season to his sophomore season, as he threw for 3,500 yards last season with almost 20 touchdowns. I expect him to take a huge step up, and with his 88 speed, he might be able to score some touchdowns on the ground. But now our schedule that we'll be taking on, as I have the confidence that we could go undefeated in conference play, but unfortunately in week 2, we have to go take on the number 1 team in the entire country. But before that, we have a week 1 game at home versus an FCS school. And then in week 2, we're going to jump in and play this game as we're traveling to the number 1 team in the entire country, heading to the Georgia Bulldogs. But then we go back home for Middle Tennessee State, heading into our first bye week of the season, where we'll start conference play at Marshall, home versus Southern Miss in the second game that we'll jump into. Then we have another home game against Old Dominion, heading into our final game at the midpoint in the season, jumping into this game in the Battle for the Belt game at Troy. It's a really quick way to use all of our games up, but I trust in this roster to go win at Louisiana Tech in week 9, then go back home and try and get a win against Louisiana, then travel to Texas State, go home for Arkansas State, and then hopefully get a final win at UL Monroe. Hopefully, after all these games, we can go back to the Sun Belt Championship game. And I know I said it a ton last season, but I think this team could possibly get the final bid in the college football playoffs. But in order for this team to prove that, we've got to set up this board and head on to our first game against the FCS team in week 1. Now, as we head into week 1 here against an FCS team, we aren't going to jump in and play this game, but we are going to take a look at our recruiting board for this season. As I'm only going after 4 and 5 stars this season, no more 3-star gems, and it's going to start with a quarterback, 2 running backs, a receiver, a guard, an edge rusher, a defensive tackle, a linebacker, and a free safety. A ton of positions of need with a ton of extra players down here who we could jump in and take over later in the recruiting process. But now, we're going to go ahead, sim on just one more week before we play against the number one team in the entire country in the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, after simming just 1 week to this game against Georgia, we both would end up getting a win in week one as we would play an FCS team and win 51-7. An expected outcome for us as we are becoming one of the better teams in college football and it's against an FCS team. But with nothing else to talk about as we just simmed 1 week, we're going to go ahead, jump into this game to see if we can get the upset of the year against number one Georgia. Second and goal from the 6. We're dropping back to pass, going over the middle of the field. That's a dangerous ball, but what a shot into Cantrell in the end zone, and we'll score first against the Bulldogs. 3rd and 12, and Georgia's going back to the air, looking for somebody to make a play. He's running out of space. He's walking into the end zone, and it's a safety. 2nd and 10 after the drop. They're going with play action once again, dropping back to pass, taking a shot over the middle of the field, and where are you going? As it's going to be a user lurk from Rogers, and he's going to get some space as he's across the 40. 1st and goal from the 5. Looking to score off the interception as we're dropping back, and we should have a wide open tight end as we're going to get back into the end zone, and this Georgia defense just cannot stop our offense. 1st and goal from the 10. We're going with a handoff up the middle with Lyle. Lyle's got some space. He spins out of a tackle. He's pushing his way forward, and we've scored over 20 points here against Georgia in the first half. Here on 1st and 10 with about 4 seconds left. We'll kick a field goal to make it 26-0 and end one of the worst first halves I've ever seen from a Georgia offense. 3rd and goal for Georgia from the 5. Dropping back to pass, looking for somebody to make a play, going to the end zone, and Rogers cannot haul it down. And Georgia finally gets on the scoreboard in the 4th quarter. 4th and 8, and Georgia's going back to the air. Going one-on-one on the right side. They've got an open receiver. What a pass from the freshman. And Georgia's back into the end zone on back-to-back drives. 1st and 10 with just over 2.5 minutes left for Georgia. They're going with play action, taking a shot downfield. They've got an open receiver who breaks the tackle. They're going to go all the way, and what is going on with our defense in this 4th quarter? We'll come out here on 3rd down to take a knee to end this game. A wild game as Georgia tried to make a comeback in the 4th quarter, but to no avail as we win 26-21, upsetting the number one team in the country, and I have no idea what went on with Georgia in the first 3 quarters. Their receivers could not catch the ball. They were dropping everything. Their quarterback was scrambling more than he should have. He might have had 12 carries just himself, and their defense was trying to do everything they could. Now, as we head into week 6 here, after playing in one of the weirdest Heisman games I've ever played before against Georgia, we are currently 4-0 and inside the top 25 for the very first time in this rebuild. Because after we would get the win at Georgia, we would travel back home for Middle Tennessee State and win 37-23. Then we would get a bye week before traveling to Marshall and winning 35-13. So now heading into this Southern Miss game, we still have an undefeated season going, which has helped us a ton in recruiting. As unfortunately we haven't landed anybody yet, but we are currently 1st place on everybody's board that we're going for. Not a lot of offers for these guys, but we're trying to land our very first recruit, possibly next week, as this free safety is coming on a visit with us. But that could possibly happen next week. But now, we've got to jump in to see if we can take down our rivals, Southern Miss. 3rd and 13 for Southern Miss. They're dropping back to pass, looking for somebody to make it. He's going to walk into the end zone, and it's going to be another safety for this defense. Second and 3 from the 46. We're keeping it on the ground. Up the middle as Lyle makes a cut. Lyle finds some space, and there we go. We'll finally find the end zone as we'll take a dive and score our first touchdown of the game. Third and 11 for Southern Miss. Still trying to find the scoreboard in this game as they're dropping back to pass. Looking for somebody to get open. Gonna just float it up there to the outside, and Lutmer's gonna come down with the pick. Third and goal for our new quarterback, Griggs, as we're dropping back to pass. Looking for somebody going to go to the end zone one-on-one, and it's Warren. And we're finally back into the end zone before the end of the first half. Third and 15 as Southern Miss is looking to get on the board before the end of the half. They're going with play action, taking a shot downfield as they're breaking tackles. The 260-pound tight end's going to break every tackle in the world, and this game's getting way too close. First and goal from the 9. It's going to be the run game. Lyle to the left side, Lyle to the end zone, and we're finally responding to Southern Miss's touchdown. Third and 4 from the 24. It's going to be another pass. Southern Miss going to the end zone. Why do they have such an open receiver? Second and goal from the 1 to give us 30 points, and Lyle will do just that as he goes up the middle for another rushing touchdown. Third and 8, dropping back to pass to Southern Miss. Taking a shot over the middle of the field. He's hit at the line, and it's going to fall right into the hands of Lutmer for an interception. We'll come out here on first and 10 to take a knee, and that should end the game. A game for some reason that was almost as tough as the Georgia game, but we'll get a 30-17 win against Southern Miss, and now we've got one game left to play. It's the battle for the belt against Troy. Now, after beating Southern Miss in a close game just a few weeks ago, we have simmed on to the battle for the belt game against Troy. Troy is unfortunately having one of their worst seasons of this rebuild so far, but we are still perfect. As after that Southern Miss game, we would have just one more game. It would be at home versus Old Dominion, winning 41-20. So now we are 6-0, all the way up to the number 21 team in the entire country. Still looking to catch Tulane as they're flying up all the way to number 12 at 7-0. They're likely fighting for the last spot in the college football playoffs, but for us, we ended up landing our very first recruit. It was that free safety that we had on visit, as after that win in week 7, he would end up committing over Kentucky. Nobody else is committed yet. They should start landing before the end of the season, but now we're going to jump into this game to see if we can bring home our third straight Battle for the Belt trophy against Troy. Third and goal from the 2. To get the first 6 points of the game, we're going over the middle, and we'll have a wide open TJ West to strike first. Second and goal from the 2. A keeper with the quarterback, and he's going to find his way into the end zone, and we finally get back on the board just before the end of the first half. You're on the field goal on 4th and 1. Just before the end of the half, we'll take a 17-point lead. Third and 5, we're going back to the air, dropping back to pass. We should have a wide open man. That's going to be Cantrell. We're back into the end zone to go up 24-0. First and goal from the 2. To put this game away as Lyle's going to go up the middle, and we've now crossed 30 points against Troy. First and 10, we're going with the ground game up the middle with Lyle. Lyle's going to find some space, and he's just going to go to the end zone to end this game on the very first play of our drive. Third and 17 for Troy. They're dropping back to pass, looking for somebody to make a play. As he's got so much time, he's running out of time. Of course, it's fumbled, and we're going to recover it for another touchdown. Come out here on 2nd and 7 for one final play. Going up the middle with Lyle. He'll get a couple of yards, but that will end this game 45-0. 10 sacks from our defense, a defensive touchdown at the end of the game, and we'll win 3 straight Battle for the Belt trophies. But now we've got to sim our final few games and hope that our team can end the season undefeated heading into our conference championship game. Now, heading into conference championship week here, after playing against Troy and beating them in our final rivalry game of the season, we are still 12-0. Because after that game, we would travel to Louisiana Tech, win 35-13, then go back home for Louisiana, win 34-24, travel back to Texas State, win 24-16, home for Arkansas State 38-9, and then last week our closest game was 38-31 at UL Monroe. But a perfect 12-0 season heads us into the conference championship game where we'll be taking on 9-3 and 7-1 in conference play Coastal Carolina. But for those 12 wins on the season, it has helped us land 7 of our 8 recruits on our board, as we've landed the quarterback, the running back, the receiver, 2 edge rushers, a linebacker, and a free safety so far, and we're about to land this 4-star linebacker as well. He should commit next week, give us all of our hours back for the transfer portal, but that doesn't matter quite yet, as we have to jump into this game to see if we can go 13-0 and lock up a college football playoff spot here against Coastal Carolina. Now we'll jump into this game with a 3rd and 1 for our offense. Currently up by 2 touchdowns, but we're going to lose yards on that play, as Lyle's over 125 yards rushing, but we're going to be forced to punt it back to Coastal Carolina, who needs a touchdown but only has 1 timeout remaining, as that's a very, very good punt inside their own 20 as they'll fair catch it at the 17. And it was a close game up until the 4th quarter. It was 32-28, but then a touchdown and a field goal gave us a 14-point lead, and now Coastal's dropping back to pass, running out of time, stepping up. Watch out from behind, as we'll push Wilson forward, and he'll end up getting 3 on that play, getting Coastal back across the 20. And on 2nd and 7, they're going to drop back once again. Wilson taking a shot downfield, and that could have been intercepted, but a deflection works almost as well. 3rd and 7 for Coastal. Dropping back, Wilson going to step up, taking a shot downfield, and it somehow does not get punched out as it's held on just shy of the 35 at about the 34, where Coastal will go with hurry-up offense. It's another pass for Wilson. A ton of time in the pocket as he's going deep downfield, and somehow that ball is dropped. 2nd and 10 for Coastal. It's going to be play action. Watch out from behind. We're going to take down Wilson, and it's Evan Ward with his 1st sack on the game, pushing Coastal back 4 yards all the way back to their own 30. And now they've got to go back to the air once again. Wilson loading up, taking a shot downfield, one-on-one, a jump ball that somehow hit the hands of the Coastal receiver, but he did a backflip before dropping it. And now it's 4th and 14 for Coastal. Going with another deep shot to the number 1 corner in the country, but it's deflected down. Sabian Brown with the deflection, and we'll have 1st and 10 with a chance to end the game. A 1st down should do it, as it's going to be Lyle with the 1st carry. He gets spun around, and there's the final timeout for Coastal Carolina. A 1st down ends the game. 2nd and 7. Trusting our guys as we're going to motion receiver over, fake it to him, up the middle. We should be able to get there, but instead we're held just shy of the 1st down mark. And there goes the 2-minute warning. 3rd and 1, we just need to push our way forward. Our mass versus their mass, as we're just going to go to the right side on an RPO. We've got some running room, and who cares about a 1st down? We'll just go to the end zone to really put this game away, as we have demolished Coastal Carolina here in the 4th quarter. And I would have liked for us to go for 2 to make it 50 points. But we'll take our 7th touchdown there, 49-28. And Coastal's all out of running room now. Almost out of time. They need 3 touchdowns in less than 2 minutes. Their offense will come out to try and do it. 5 wide. They're going to have to send something deep here as Wilson's going to step up. He's running out of time. He's hit at the line. He'll get it out, but only 3 yards gained, and they've got to get back on the football. 2nd and 7. It's going to be another pass for Wilson. Going over the top, targeting one-on-one. It's double coverage, however, and it's going to be intercepted, and that will guarantee our Sun Belt Conference championship, and that should lock us up a college football playoff spot. Hopefully it's enough to get us back inside the home game range. But if we have to go play away at another place, we'll gladly do that. As we'll come out for the knee, run out the rest of the clock, and what a fourth quarter from us. Putting up multiple touchdowns, getting all the way up to 49 points. But now we've got to head into what should be our very first college football playoff appearance in this rebuild. Now, after winning our conference championship just a few weeks ago, we have simmed on to the first round of the college football playoffs where we will be traveling to 5th ranked Notre Dame. I don't know why we fell in the rankings after winning our conference championship game, but that's just what happened, and now we got the final spot in the college football playoffs. Now, here on early National Signing Day, we did end up landing that final linebacker that we were looking at, so we got all 8 4-stars that we had on our board. A solid start to recruiting, but we'll worry about that after the season once we jump into this game and play against 5th ranked Notre Dame. Now we'll jump into this game with a 1st and 10 as the clock is under 3 minutes. But unfortunately, like I said at the start of this game, our offense can't get much going as we're going to step up, throw towards the sideline, but it's going to go over our players' heads. As Notre Dame's really been in control this entire game. It was 14-7 after the first quarter, and we just haven't scored since then. But we're going deep over the middle. Another overthrow as the snow continues to fall, making it difficult for us to see. But it doesn't really matter too much at this point as we're going to drop back once again. Over the middle, there's a 1st down to keep our drive moving. We're just shy of midfield. Getting back on the ball quickly as we still have all 3 timeouts. But we've got 2 minutes and 25 seconds now left on this clock. It's going to be another pass over the middle of the field that's deflected down. Could have ended our game if it was able to be picked off. But it brings up 2nd and 10. Still from our own 49 as we're dropping back once again over the middle of the field. There's another receiver. And now we're inside Notre Dame territory. As our quarterback has just now crossed 100 yards passing. No interceptions, though, for him is a solid gain. And he's going to dump it off there on a wild play, but we're going to hit the 2-minute warning. We're going to try and hurry back to the line, but that won't matter. The 2-minute warning is just too quick. But we'll get back on the ball here, 2nd and 11. Just across the 40, it's going to be another pass. Stepping up, a wobbly ball as it floats up into double coverage. Deflected down, and now it's 3rd and 11. From the 37. Dropping back to pass once again. There's a man in his face over the middle of the field. Somehow that ball wasn't intercepted. And now this could end our game here. 4th and 11. Need to get to the 26. As we're taking a shot deep, it's going to be intercepted. And if he can get back on his feet, this can be returned for a touchdown. But we get him down at about the 46. Third and 18 with 8 seconds left. One more run will end this. They're going to fake it. Go back over the middle of the field. They've got an open receiver, but the clock hits 1. The clock hits triple zeros, and there goes the end of our season at the hands of Notre Dame in the snow. But what a huge season from us. 13-1. Could not be happier with the results. But now we've got to head on to the transfer portal to see if we can turn this team into a powerhouse. Now, after losing to Notre Dame in the college football playoffs, I have simmed on here to the first transfer portal week of the season. But before we get in the transfer portal, I want to take a look at our draft results as we had our first players get drafted off to the NFL in this rebuild. Xavier Brown went in the first, TJ West went in the fourth, and Jordan Lyle went in the seventh. A solid start. Our pro potential is finally going up, and that's helping us land possibly some extra recruits in the transfer portal. As after landing the first 8 high school recruits, I've gone on and filled the rest of the board with mostly 4 stars and some extra 3 stars to round out the board. With the first players being 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 2 receivers, 2 tight ends, 5 offensive linemen to round out the offensive side of the ball. But on the defensive side, we've got 3 defensive tackles, 3 linebackers, 3 cornerbacks, 3 strong safeties to round out the defense, with a kicker to round out the special teams and the rest of the transfer portal targets. A solid start. We're likely not going to land all these players, but we can find out once we sim all the way to the final week of the transfer portal, where I'll show you guys who I land. Now, after 4 weeks of going through the transfer portal, I ended up landing 34 of 35 recruits on my board, with the first 8 coming from high school, like I said a couple weeks ago. But for the rest of the board, we've got 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 2 receivers, 2 tight ends, 4 offensive linemen, 3 defensive tackles, 3 linebackers, 3 corners, 3 safeties, and a kicker to round out our board. Unfortunately, Oklahoma State stole this 4-star tackle from me that I thought I was going to land with a week 3 visit. But even though we didn't land him, our class landed us inside the top 20 for the first time this rebuild at 19th in the entire country, with 8 recruits being 4 stars, 25 of them being 3 stars, and a 2-star kicker to round out our board. A huge step in the right direction once again, as making the college football playoffs has had a ton of positive impacts on this program. But now we're going to go ahead, switch some positions around, upgrade this team, and then head into season 4. Now, as we head into season 4 here, after making the college football playoffs last season, this team is coming into this season with expectations to not only make the playoffs, but either get a home game or a first round bye if that's possible. And then once we reach that point, we need to start winning games in the playoffs to continue to move forward in this rebuild. And just like every other season, I believe this roster has improved as we're coming in here with a 94 overall team on both sides of the ball, with our best offensive player being Eric Smith. The 90 overall, 94 speed receiver is our best player on our roster. But I would disagree with that, as I think it's going to be the 90 overall edge rusher, the transfer from Georgia a couple seasons ago, Chris Jones. He's our best defensive player. He's got 86 speed and 99 agility off the edge. But for the rest of this roster, the rest of the units are all high 80 overalls with some 88s, 87s, just a singular 86, but mainly the 85s to round out this team. Some lower 82s are going to have to take some backup roles and sit the bench this season. But the biggest debate for me is going to be the quarterback. You would think with the highest overall being Riggins up to an 87 overall, he would get the starting job. But with 64 speed, I don't think he best fits our offense. I believe it's our backup from last season, Titus Griggs, who got a few opportunities last season and made the most of it. He's also got 79 speed, and I believe that best fits our offense. Now, you would think the guy with 90 speed, who was our starting quarterback last season, would be better than Griggs, but unfortunately his passing abilities just aren't good enough to win a national championship, in my opinion. And I believe the balance of speed and passing ability from Griggs should be able to get us to a national championship and win us the game. So I'm going to give him the keys to our offense this season. But now for our schedule that we have to take on here in this season. Once again, we're starting off with an SEC opponent in week 1, as we will travel to 9th-ranked Ole Miss. It'll be the first game that we jump into and play once again, looking to get another win against an SEC opponent. But then we have 2 home games, home versus an FCS team, and then home versus Bowling Green in week 3. Now heading into week 4, I'm going to change a couple things around as we are going to jump in and play this game against 14th ranked SMU. What I'm thinking is we're playing Troy and Southern Miss, two Sun Belt teams every single season who aren't as good as we are anymore. So you're probably getting sick and tired of me jumping into these games and just demolishing these teams every season. So we're going to get rid of the Southern Miss game as it's not a firm rivalry game between these two teams. And we're going to keep the Troy game because it is a battle for the belt. It is a solidified rivalry game. So we're just going to play two Power 4 opponents from now on, and it will be at 14th ranked SMU this season. But then heading into conference play, we have at JMU, at Arkansas State, home versus Texas State heading into our first bye week of the season. Then we'll have our final game that we'll jump into a play. It will be home in the battle for the belt game against Troy. Then we'll sim out the rest of the conference play. It'll be home versus Marshall, at Southern Miss, home versus UL Monroe, and then at Louisiana to round out our season. So once we go through all that, we should be back in the Sun Belt Championship game and hopefully fighting for a college football playoff spot. But now we're going to go ahead, sim on to week 1, set up my board, and then keep on moving throughout this rebuild where we'll play Ole Miss. Now, as we head into week 1 here, we'll be traveling to 9th ranked Ole Miss. But before we jump into that game, we're going to take a look at our recruiting board for this season. Because in this season, I'm going with another different recruiting strategy as I'm basically only going after 5 stars and some 4-star gems. We're running out of time in this rebuild, so the only players from high school who can really make impacts in this rebuild are the 5 stars who come in as superstars. And the 4-star gems who become superstars later after only 1 season can also make an impact in this rebuild. So in this season, I'm going after a receiver, 3 tackles, a guard, a defensive tackle, a corner, and 3 safeties. Pretty simple. Most of them being 5 stars, most of them being 4 stars as well. Trying to bring in the best possible talent. But now we're going to go ahead, jump into this game to see if we can get another top 10 win, this time against Ole Miss. First and goal from the 3. It's going to be a handoff up the middle to Uzomah, and he's going to end up in the end zone, and we're going to score the first 6 points on our very first drive. First and goal from the 2. To go up by 2 touchdowns, we're going to keep it with Griggs, flip it off to the running back Uzomah, and Uzomah's going to cut to the end zone. He's got 2 rushing touchdowns in the first quarter. 3rd and 7 for Ole Miss. Looking to stay on the field to get within field goal range at the least as they're dropping back to pass. Looking for somebody going one-on-one over the top, going for it all. And he's not even going to have any competition as it's going to be brought down, and Ole Miss cuts our lead in half. 1st and 10 from the 20. Going with a handoff up the middle as it's Lindsley. The faster, more elusive back is going to find his way into the end zone, and we've got 3 rushing touchdowns in the first half. 1st and 10 from the 25. Going with a motion receiver. Play action, dropping back to pass. We should have a wide open man downfield. That's going to be Cantrell, and we've scored 4 touchdowns here at Ole Miss. 1st and 10 from the 11. Going with a motion, dropping back. We should have a man over the middle of the field. That's Cantrell, and Cantrell's going to walk into the end zone as the life in this Ole Miss crowd has been completely zapped. 4th and goal from the 4. Ole Miss going for it as they're dropping back to pass, looking for something. They'll have a man in the back of the end zone to give them 14 points. We'll come out here on 1st and 10 for one more play before the end of the game. It's going to be a handoff to Lindsley, who gets a solid chunk of yardage, but we'll win 35-14. Completely demolished Ole Miss in the first half. Slowed down in the second half, but the whole game just slowed down in the second half once Ole Miss brought in their backups. But a great game to start our season. This team has what it takes to go undefeated heading into the college football playoffs. But can we get it done, as now we have to sim on to our second game against SMU. Now, after a pretty easy win in week 1 against Ole Miss, We have simmed on to the SMU game where they are currently ranked 8th in the entire country after going 3-0 in their first 3 games. But for us, we are also 3-0 because after that Ole Miss win, we would have an FCS team at home win 51-3, then another home game versus Bowling Green and win 49-27. Our offense is putting up a ton of points so far this season, but we look to do it again as we're going to go ahead, jump into this game to see if we can take down our second top 10 opponent of the season. 1st and 10 for our offense. We're going with the run game. As Lindsley finds a lane, Lindsley could go all the way on the very first play as he's across the 50. One more man trailing behind him, but on the very first play, he's going 84 yards to the house. 2nd and 14 from the 40. Dropping back to pass, looking for somebody to get open. They'll find the running back out of the backfield, and he touches the ball on every play and goes all the way to the end zone to tie it up at 7. 3rd and 3, and SMU's going to the air, dropping all the way back, running out of time, going to the end zone. It's over our safety, and they're going to score a touchdown to take the lead. 2nd and 4, we're going back to the air, going to the sideline as we should have an open tight end. It's going to be Grimmett. Grimmett inside the 1, Grimmett to the end zone to tie this game back up at 14. 2nd and 7 for SMU. They're going out quickly to the receiver. How in the world do we miss him as he escapes and he's going to the end zone to give SMU a 21-14 lead? We'll come out here for a 1st and 10. Go with a motion man as we're going to hand it off. Off to Lindsley. Lindsley making a cut. Lindsley across the 50, and he's going to go all the way back to the end zone for another 80-plus yard touchdown. Going to be another handoff up the middle. Somehow escapes, somehow finds the end zone as this SMU attack is just too difficult to stop. 2nd and 12, we're dropping back the pass. Rolling out here with Griggs as we should have a man deep downfield. It's going to be Cantrell in the end zone to tie this game up. 1st and 10 from the 31. A handoff. We get pancaked off the line once again. Everybody's getting demolished, and I don't even know what to do anymore. On 4th and 10, we'll take a field goal to make it a 4-point game. 4th and goal for SMU, and we'll finally get them to take a field goal. We'll come out here for a dangerous 4th down, but we're trusting our run game up the middle as Zuma finds the lane, finds the end zone to tie this game up at 38. 1st and 10 from the 44. Dropping back to pass. Running out of time. He's going to fumble the football, and we get a fumble recovery, and we finally stop SMU's offense. We'll come out here on 4th and 2 to kick a field goal to finally get a lead back against this team. 1st and 10 from the 11. SMU dropping back to pass. Going over the middle of the field. They've got a touchdown to take the lead. We'll come out here on 1st and 10. SMU will take a knee. That might be the best team in college football. On paper, it doesn't seem like it, but that team was impossible to stop. 21 points in the first quarter, 14 in the second quarter, and they just ran away with it. We'll lose here 45-41. I don't have any words anymore. But we've got one more game left to play. It's against Troy in the battle for the belt game that we have to win. Now, after losing to Southern Miss a couple weeks ago, we have simmed on to the battle for the belt game against Troy, who once again is having a really rough season as they are currently 2-5 heading into this game. But for us, we haven't lost since that SMU game, as we would go on to destroy JMU at JMU, another solid win at Arkansas State, and then another solid win at home versus Texas State before we had a bye week heading into this game against Troy. but the effects from that SMU game still haunt us to this week, as in recruiting, we have been demolished from that game. Unfortunately, we would lose a 4-star guard to Florida and a 4-star gem defensive tackle to Ole Miss. But not only that, we would end up losing this corner and this free safety because they have locked us out due to playing style. The amount of passing yards that SMU had destroyed us. So we're struggling a little bit in recruiting, but we should be able to land a couple of players after this week. We do have some players on visit, so we need to get a win. But now we're going to jump into this game to see if we can continue our Battle for the Belt trophy winning streak against Troy. First and goal for Troy. Going a handoff. I don't even know what happened there, but Troy's going to take the first lead of the game with a touchdown. 2nd and 7. It's going to be another handoff for Lindsey. Lindsey down the sideline, cutting all the way inside the 20, and he's going to go all the way to the end zone to tie this game up at 7. 3rd and 10 for Troy. They're dropping back to pass, looking for something downfield. He's going to fumble the football, and we're going to pick it up across the 50. 1st and 10. Dropping back to pass, looking for somebody. We might have a man out of the backfield. That's going to be Lindsey, and Lindsey's going to find his 2nd touchdown of the 1st quarter. 3rd and 5. We're keeping it on the ground up the middle. Azama, he's going to cut to the outside, and he's going to go all the way to the end zone, to the house, 75 yards to increase our lead to 14. On 4th and 9, we're going to take a field goal. We'll come out on 4th and goal. Dropping back to pass, makes his defender fall over, and we'll find the end zone before the end of the first half. 2nd and goal from the 4. To increase our lead as we're rolling out with Griggs. Should have a man in the back of the end zone wide open as Eric Smith for the touchdown. 4th and 3, and Troy's going to go for it. They need to end up in the end zone as they're dropping back to pass. Going to the end zone is popped up, and it's intercepted by Thomas. 3rd and 9. Dropping back to pass once again. Watch out as he's in the end zone, and it's a safety. We'll come out here on 3rd and 2 for what is likely the final play of the game. Troy stepping up. Is he going to throw it, or is he just going to take a sack? He'll take the sack, but that'll end the game. The battle for the belt goes back to us for 4 straight seasons. A 40-7 win, a huge win for us. But now we just got to hope that this team can go undefeated for the rest of the season, as we will likely be heading into the Sun Belt Championship game. Now, after winning our 4th straight Battle for the Belt trophy, we have simmed on to the conference championship game here. This time we'll be taking on App State after we went a perfect 8-0 in conference play, because we haven't lost a game since that SMU game, and after that Troy game, we'd have a game at home against Marshall and only give up 1 more point, while scoring the same amount, ending 40-8. But then we'd head to Southern Miss the very next week, win 42-28. A home game versus UL Monroe, winning 34-24, and rounding out our regular season at Louisiana, winning 49-13. So now this is a huge conference championship game for us, because we are currently ranked just inside the college football playoffs, as we would be taking on Alabama in the first round. We would be hosting a home game, so that's a solid step up for us. But winning this game could possibly get us the 5 seed over Tulane if they would end up losing their conference championship game. But one more update before we jump into this game is our recruiting board has fallen off a little bit, but we have landed 3 5-stars. We've landed a receiver and 2 offensive linemen, which should be huge for us going into the next couple of seasons. Our offense should be reaching its full potential, but we're also landing a couple of other possible 4-star prospects after this week. But now we're going to go ahead, jump into this game to see if we can give App State their 2nd conference loss on the season. Now we'll jump into this game with 3rd and inches from the 1. A QB sneak to get us 1st and goal. But I don't know how much that's going to impact the game as we'll hit the 2-minute warning, but we're up 48-3. We have dominated since the first quarter and the first half in total as we'll go with a handoff up the middle. That's Lindsley for the touchdown. And this game is all but over. It was all but over after the end of the first half, but that's 55 points for us. JT Lindsay with the touchdown. Bring out field goal units, take a PAT. Kind of just get this game to wrap up. Don't know if App State will use any of their timeouts. Likely going to try and just drive down the field as we'll send it back to them on the kickoff. See if we just put it out the back of the end zone, as it looks like we'll put it about midway through. They'll take a knee and start their drive from the 25. 1st and 10 with 1:58. Likely just looking to wait for this clock to run out as he's swallowed in the backfield. Dobbins is going to lose yards. Bring up 2nd and 12 as we're approaching the final 90 seconds. Another handoff for Dobbins, and it looks like he's going to lose yards again. 3rd and 13. I wouldn't be surprised if App State went for it on 4th down. But now, as the clock ticks under 60 seconds, dropping back to pass a ton of time as he goes over the middle of the field. A high ball is broken up, and they're actually going to punt it away. As soon as we get the ball back, we're likely just going to take a knee to end the game, as it looks like this punt will go across midfield back to the 35. Just across at the 36. We'll have 1st and 10 with 47 seconds left. It's going to be a handoff up the middle that gets us about 8 yards in Azuma. He's at 61 yards rushing as we're inside 10 seconds left. It looks like we'll have to run one more play before we clinch our spot in the college football playoffs. It's a handoff up the middle, breaking a tackle down to the 45. Azuma ends his game with 72 yards rushing. We end our game with a 55-3 final score, and that game should have just clinched us a college football playoff spot and maybe a 1st-round bye. Now, as we head into our first college football playoff matchup here, unfortunately, even after winning our conference championship game, we got pushed out of a home game, and now we have to travel to 7th-ranked Florida. They went 9-3 on the season, 5-3 in conference play. But if we were to win this game against Florida, we would be taking on Duke in the Cotton Bowl. It's a solid matchup, taking on what was the #1 team in the country all up until last week. But the only way to play the Duke Blue Devils is by jumping into this game to see if we can take down 7th-ranked Florida. We'll jump into this game 1st and 10 with Florida with a touchdown lead, just getting the ball back. And that could have been an interception inside the Florida 25, but it was dropped. Florida's held the lead since the second quarter, and they almost could have just given it up there as they're dropping back to pass once again. Going over the middle of the field, it's a dangerous pass, but they get it out there, and the Florida quarterback's almost at 400 yards passing, 3 touchdowns as their secondary has completely crumbled since that SMU game. But now on 1st and 10, we need somebody to make a stop, and that's a start as we'll get them down in the backfield. There's our timeout, our 2nd of the 4th quarter. But in a game where Florida's led since the 2nd quarter, we just scored a touchdown to get back within a touchdown. So we're going to need a stop here before the 2-minute warning. Going over the middle of the field, that could have been intercepted. The drops, just can't have them. We need a turnover. But it's 3rd and 12 for the Gators. Not wanting to throw this game away. They're dropping back to pass, going all the way up top. 1-on-1, and it's broken up. And it looks like we could get the ball back as Florida will bring out the punt team. We need a return from Hurley. Something for us to get back in this game as Florida's just going to punt it out of bounds. Not the greatest of punts, but we've got 1st and 10 from our own 32. We've got the 2-minute warning. We've got a timeout as we're dropping back to pass. Going over the middle of the field, that's a 1st down. That's across midfield. It's a great start for Griggs as he's up to 380 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. The defensive secondaries have been non-existent in this game as we'll hit the 2-minute warning. Now, after the 2-minute warning, we just have 1 timeout left. But with 2 minutes across midfield, we're dropping back to pass, another slant. That's a solid chunk of yards, but we've got to get back on the ball. Hurrying things up. With about 100 seconds left in this game, another slant. Griggs' comfort zone as he is closing in on 400 yards passing. With about 90 seconds left. Back on the ball we go. And dropping back to pass once again. Griggs stepping up, another check down for him. We've got to go down the field at some point, hurrying back up. Griggs dropping back once again. Got a little bit of time, but he's going to the outside. That's a first down, and did he get out of bounds? As we're going to go with hurry up. The clock continues to roll once we get back to the line. 3 receivers at the bottom of the screen, 1 up top. Dropping back to pass. He's got pressure in his face, and it's going to be thrown into triple coverage and intercepted, and Florida could return this for a touchdown. I don't think anybody's got the speed, and that will end our game. I'm surprised they returned it. They probably could have just sat down and ended it. But it's a 92-yard pick six, and this will likely bring our season to an end. The pressure was too much for us, but hopefully this team can keep on improving going into next season. As long as we can get Griggs back, hopefully he doesn't leave off for the transfer portal. We shouldn't be losing too many guys to the draft or for graduation. As I return is just shy of the 10 with 49 seconds left. I don't know if it's possible. We're going to need a touchdown, an onside, and another touchdown. Griggs going on a slant, broken up. But for the rest of this team, guys like Lindsey should be coming back for his senior season as that's another check down. We've got to start taking shots downfield. But this is a huge performance from Griggs. Most of our offensive line should be returning. Unfortunately, I think we're going to lose some defensive line guys to the NFL. We might be losing Chris Jones. Our secondary should improve as well. Our linebacking room might be the best room that we have next season. As Griggs is dropping back once again on 4th and inches, taking a shot downfield. It's broken up. Turnover on downs will end our game. Florida will come out to take the knee, win their first round matchup, go on to take Duke in the second round. As there goes the knee. There goes our season. Unfortunate way to end it. We put up a fight late, but putting up no points in the third quarter ultimately hurt us in the end. But now we've got to head on to off-season recruiting in the transfer portal for the very first week. Now, after losing to the Florida Gators in the first round of the college football playoffs, I have simmed on to the first week of the transfer portal. But before we take a look at my board, I want to take a look at who we had drafted. Because like I said in the Florida game, our big loss was going to be Chris Jones as he went in the third round. We ended up having Eric Smith graduate early. He's going off to the NFL in the 4th round. But then the man running the middle of our defense, Jaden Walker, went in the 4th round as well. So our pro potential continues to go up, which helps us in recruiting. And for my recruiting board, I'm bringing in a ton of transfer portal players. Players with some experience, players who can give us a national title soon, as we need as we're running into our final few seasons. We've got 2 more high school players on our board. And then for the transfer portal, mostly 4 stars and 3 stars. We've got a punter at the bottom of our board, but it starts with 2 quarterbacks, a running back, 3 receivers, 5 offensive linemen, 4 edge rushers, 3 linebackers, 5 corners, 3 strong safeties, and 3 free safeties to round out our board, mainly focusing on that defensive secondary as it got destroyed to the transfer portal. Everybody left after our playing style got demolished, mainly by SMU and later in the season as we gave up a ton of passing yards. But now we're going to go ahead, sim on to the very end of off-season recruiting, where I'll show you how my board fills out. Now, after 4 weeks of going through the transfer portal, I may have had one of my worst transfer portals, unfortunately. But for the players we landed, we got four out of high school, with three of them being 5 stars, a receiver, two tackles, and then a 4-star center. But for the transfer portal, I ended up getting two quarterbacks, a running back, a receiver, five offensive linemen, four edge rushers, two linebackers, three corners, four free safeties, two strong safeties, and a punter. But now for the bad. Unfortunately, we lost a linebacker, two corners, two receivers, and a 4-star linebacker from high school. But even though we lost all those players, we were inside the top 20 once again, right at number 20, landing 3 5 stars, two 4 stars, 23 3 stars, and one 2-star punter. Only 29 recruits, but it still should be a solid class. Hopefully, we can upgrade these players and make this team even better. But in order to make that happen, we've got to jump in and sim on to season 5. Now, as we head into season 5 here, we have the hopes of headlining the possible national title contender conversations, as this team has been upgraded to possibly the best roster in all of college football. A 99 overall on both sides of the ball, headlined by the possible best defensive player in all of college football, Nicholas Clayton. The 6'5" lurking linebacker is up to a 98 overall with 89 speed. He should make it extremely difficult for offenses to drive down the field, but he's not the only superstar on this defense. As Ethan Utley, the man taking over for Chris Jones, who went off to the NFL, he should fit in perfectly as he's a 91 overall with 80 speed off the edge. But Clayton's not the only linebacker causing havoc on this defense, as Josh O'Dowd is up to a 90 overall with 90 speed as well. The two of them should be wreaking havoc for offenses, not allowing running backs to escape, not allowing receivers to go over the middle of the field. They should be deadly. But the defense shouldn't get all the shine, as the offense has some superstars as well. But one of our biggest problems throughout this rebuild has been our offensive linemen blocking and passing games. But with some superstars like Buchanan and Anthrop holding down our offensive line, we should be fairly solid this season. But for the playmakers on this team, Von Uzama was splitting time last season, but he should be taking a bell cow role in this offense as he's up to a 90 overall with 90 speed. But even if he takes a step back, the man who was splitting the backfield with him last season, JT Lindsley, he's up to an 89 overall with 96 speed. The two of them could split time if Uzama doesn't run away with it. But if the running game can't go, we do have an amazing quarterback. Unfortunately, we're switching quarterbacks once again, but it's for the freshman, Manny Cheek, who's up to a 90 overall with 85 speed. Should be even better than the quarterback play that we had last season. He could take over games and win us every single game. But for some of his playmakers, it's not the best room we've had in a while, as Jeremy Webb is going to be taking over. He's an 88 overall with 85 speed. But other than that, we don't have many speedsters on this roster, but Cantrell, Brooks, and Rollerson should be great options for our quarterbacks to get the job done. But now for the schedule that this team has to take on in this season. As once again, we have another SEC matchup in week 1. This time, they'll be traveling to our stadium, as number 24 Texas will be coming into town. That will be the first game that we'll jump into and play before we sim through week 2 against an FCS team, heading into a bye week where we'll play our second game, another home game, this time against a Big Ten opponent in Wisconsin. Then we head into conference play at UL Monroe, at Georgia State, home versus Arkansas State, at Texas State, at UConn in our final non-conference. Then to round out our conference schedule, home versus Southern Miss, home versus Louisiana, and then our third and final game we'll jump into is the battle for the belt game once again, to try and win 5 straight years in a row before a home game versus JMU to end our season. This entire schedule should lead us back to the Sun Belt Championship game, as we have hopes of winning a national championship this year. Even if we're able to get that done this season, we still need a Heisman Trophy winner. So we're going to try and knock out both of those challenges in this season. But in order to find that out, we've got to set up our board and head into our very first week against Texas. Now, as we head into week 1 here against Texas, we will be jumping in and playing this game. But first, I want to take a look at recruiting, because I'm going for a very odd strategy, only targeting 3 players, but it's for a reason that I think will benefit us in the end. As we are heading into our 5th season here, which means new high school players that we are going to bring in won't be able to develop in time to make an impact in our 6th and final season. So I'm trying to bring in the best possible players in this class that I can actually go after, which is this 5-star linebacker, another 5-star linebacker, and this 4-star athlete. I believe these are the only players in high school that could make an impact on this roster next season. And then I'm just going to rely on the transfer portal for the rest of this rebuild, bringing in as many players from the transfer portal because they already have experience in college. But now we're going to go ahead, jump into this game to see if we can start season 5 with a ranked win against Texas. First and 10 for this Texas offense. They're going with play action, dropping back, going to the sideline, and they're going to throw a pick to Geo Combs on the very first play. 3rd and goal for Texas. From the 7, they're dropping back to pass, looking for somebody going to the sideline, but he's in the end zone, and it's a touchdown for Texas's first lead of the season. 1st and goal from the 1. To tie this game up as we're going with an RPO to the outside, that's Rollerson into the end zone for our first passing touchdown of the game and our first touchdown of the season. 1st and 10 for the Longhorns as they're dropping back to pass, looking for somebody as they're going deep downfield. That's out of our reach, and Texas on the passing game is destroying our secondary. 2nd and 10 from the 20. Texas motioning out the tight end, going with an RPO. He gets a speed boost, and he might be gone. This game's falling apart. 1st and 10. Dropping back to pass, going over the middle of the field. That's a slant to Rollerson, and Rollerson walks into the end zone as we respond to Texas' touchdown to make it a 7-point game once again. 1st and 10 from the 26. Our defense needs a stop, but Texas is going to throw another pick to Geo Combs. 1st and 10 from the 17. Going with play action. We should have a man wide open. That's Cantrell, and we are going to tie this game up at 21. 1st and 10 from the 17. We need another turnover from this defense or just get Texas off the field as they're sending a shot downfield. And as soon as I'm talking about turnovers, Irving's going to give up his 2nd long touchdown of the game. 4th and 2 for Texas to take a double-digit lead. 1st and 10 from the 25. We're dropping back, taking a shot deep downfield. We should have Cantrell wide open, and we're going to get a touchdown, and this game's getting interesting again. 2nd and goal here after the 2-minute warning. Another handoff. Azama, a cut, a touchdown to give us our first lead of the game. 1st and 10 for Texas. Going the motion, but they're going to go with a handoff across the 30, juking out of a tackle. How did we miss that? And somehow Texas is going to go back to the end zone again. 2nd down, a handoff. He fumbles the football. We were trying to get the ball to the middle of the field, and somehow we fumble the ball, and Texas is going to win the game off of that. That's the final play of the game, and that's how we lose. We didn't even get a chance to kick the field goal. I wasn't even talking because I was just trying to get it to the middle of the field. We scored 28 points in the fourth quarter and lost. I'm at a loss for words. It doesn't help that we gave up nearly 500 passing yards as our defensive backs are just crumbling again. But we'll start our season with a loss. Texas will take us down. Now, as we head into week 4 here, we are going to jump in and play this game against Wisconsin. But before we get into that, I want to take a look at our schedule once again. Going back and looking at the games that we've already played. After that Texas game, we would go back home for an FCS team and only win 31-10. A very concerning sign for me throughout this season. Hopefully, we can turn things around. But I also want to take a look at this Texas game because I didn't talk about it much because I was just stunned by the last play of the game. But our defense did not show up. 480 passing yards given up and 601 total yards of offense for Texas. Their offense was nearly impossible for us to stop, but our offense was striking back. As Cheek in his very first college game had 363 yards passing with multiple touchdowns, 4 of them to be exact. But our rushing game was extremely solid too. Our superstar duo running backs had 158 total yards and 1 touchdown on the ground. So our offense wasn't playing horribly, but the one thing that always stopped us was in the red zone. We had multiple drives where we were down at the 1 and didn't leave with points. So we are going to have to fix that heading into this Wisconsin game. But now we're going to go ahead, jump into this game against Wisconsin to see if we can get our get back and stay in the win column. 3rd and 1 from the 45. We're dropping back, going over the top one-on-one. Cantrell burns his man, and he'll go to the end zone to give us the first lead of the game against Wisconsin. 3rd and 2 from just shy of the 20. Going to the air is Wisconsin. Taking a shot downfield, and it's going to be picked off by Mixon down to the 21. 3rd and goal from the 1. To take a 2-touchdown lead, we're dropping back. We're rolling out. We'll just take a dump off to the running back who's wide open. That's Lindsey out of the backfield to give us a 2-touchdown lead against the Badgers. 1st and 10 before the end of the first quarter. Dropping back. A running back out of the backfield. That's Lindsey to find the end zone. And we've scored 21 points here in the first quarter. 1st and 10 from the 14. It's another RPO, and the shutout is gone. 3rd and 5. We're dropping back to pass, taking a shot downfield. That's a slant. That's Cantrell, and we're going to find the end zone to score our touchdown back. 1st and 10 for Wisconsin. Trying not to fall too far out of this game as they're dropping back, going to the outside, and that's Irving with the pick as he's making up for his mistakes in the Texas game with a pick 6. 2nd and 10. It's going to be another pass for Wisconsin going to the outside and give Irving 2 on back-to-back drives as we're back inside the 15. 1st and 10 from the 14. We're dropping back to pass, going underneath to a wide open tight end, and Boatwright responds to Irving's touchdown to give Boatwright his first touchdown on the game. 2nd and 11 from the 9. Dropping back to pass once again, going to the outside, and this might be the best lurking team in the entire country, as that's another pick 6. We'll come out here on 4th and 8 to take a field goal to give us 50 points in the first half. 3rd and 10 for our offense. We're going over the middle as our wide open Brooks burns his man immediately, and we might go all the way for 73 yards to make it 59 points against this Badgers' hopeless defense. 1st and 10. Dropping back to pass, going over the middle of the field. User lurked. Our 5th pick of the game comes from the superstar Clayton. Third and goal from the 3. We're dropping back. We should have a wide open slant. That's Webb. Makes the catch, gets us in the end zone, gets us over 60 points. Third and 15 from the 6. Dropping back to pass once again, taking a shot one-on-one over the top, targeting Irving, who already has 2 picks, and that's his third. Third and 6 from the 14. Another pass. Looking towards the sidelines. They've got a man inside the 5 breaking tackles. Another tackling into the end zone. Second and goal. It's going to be another handoff up the middle. They're going to fight their way into the end zone. We'll come out here on 4th and 4 for one final play in this game just to have some fun and send it deep. See that 94 arm strength from Cheek, and it's going to fall incomplete. But a 66-21 win with the most interceptions I've seen from a defense in a game. We're over double digits now as a team after only 3 games, and 5 sacks to add on top of that is huge for a fantastic defensive performance. But you don't put up 66 points on defense, as Cheek had himself a fantastic game as well. Now, after destroying Wisconsin a couple weeks ago, we have simmed on to the battle for the belt game against Troy. But unfortunately for us, the wheels are starting to fall off in the past couple of weeks, as we were 7-1, but then we played against Southern Miss at home, lost by just 1 point, and then at home again got destroyed by Louisiana. I don't know what's going on with this team. We just keep losing. We might have fallen out of the college football playoffs. We're currently unranked, and we've only landed one of the 3 recruits that we were targeting. This 5-star linebacker should be great for us, but I would have liked to at least land one of the other 2. But we've got to get back in the win column. We've got to jump into this game to see if we can take our 5th straight battle for the belt trophy. 2nd and 10. We're going to go with a run play up the middle. Lindsey finds a lane. Lindsey finds the end zone to give us our first points of the game. First and goal from the 6 to go up by 2 touchdowns as we're going to hand it off to Lindsey, and Lindsey's going to muscle his way in for his 2nd touchdown of the first half. First and 10, and we're going to the ground game. A cut from Lindsey. Lindsey gets a block. Lindsey all the way to the 10 and to the end zone to give us a 3-touchdown lead. Third and goal from the 1 to push our way forward, give us 4 touchdowns. It's Lindsey. He muscles his way in, and he's having his signature day that I've been waiting for all season. Almost 200 yards and now 4 touchdowns on the game. On 4th and 5, we'll bring up the field goal unit to make it 31-0. Third and goal from the 10. Troy's going to motion out the running back. They're dropping back to pass. Where will Wilds go? Wilds fumbles the football, and Sevillano's going to pick it up. We'll come out here on 4th and 2, letting this clock wind down, but we'll get 1 play off. Have some fun with it. Let's go one-on-one in the end zone with the running back. That's Lindsey, who's already had a huge day, but it's picked off. That about rounds up our season. But our first shutout, I believe, of this rebuild in the battle for the belt, our 5th straight win, as Lindsey had his best game of his college career, went for all 4 of our touchdowns, over 250 yards rushing. But I actually got to give some credit to Sean Sevillano. Now, as we head into the 2nd bowl week here, we will be taking on Memphis in the First Responders Bowl. But before we jump into this game, I have to talk about the conference standings, because I thought that we were going to be in the conference championship. I thought we were going to have a chance at making it. But unfortunately for us, those 2 losses in the middle of the season completely kicked us out, as Southern Miss went a perfect 8-0 and Old Dominion went 7-1 in conference play. Those 2 teams played in the conference championship game as Southern Miss got the final playoff spot. But for us, we completely missed the conference championship game and are forced to settle with a bowl game. A huge step back from what we were looking forward to this season as I thought this team was one of the best in all of college football on paper, with one of the best linebackers who had double-digit interceptions, but it wasn't enough to get it done. But we've still got to end season 5 here, so we're going to jump into this game to see if we can take down the Memphis Tigers. We'll jump into this game with a 1st and 10 from our own 23. Looks to be an RPO out to the running back, but he's not going to get anything. If anything, he might have lost yards on the play, as there's the first timeout for Memphis, as it's been a close game all game long. I wasn't expecting it to be like this. I was expecting us to run away with it after the first half. We were up 13-3, but Memphis has come back, tied it up, but we got a touchdown, and now we have the ball back 3rd and 12 from our own 20. Going to need the freshman Cheeks to step up as he's dropping back, taking a shot towards the sideline. There's a wide open receiver. He could go all the way to the end zone if he has enough speed, but he's downed at the 22. And there's another Memphis timeout, completely flipping the field for us. A 48-yard catch and run. And now we've got 1st and 10. A handoff that gets flattened for a loss. And JT Lindsley struggling himself. Only 50 yards rushing on 14 carries. But now 2nd and 12, we're likely going to put the ball back in the hands of Cheeks as he's going to keep the ball on the ground. He's going up the middle. 11 carries for 36 yards from Cheek. Here on 3rd and 6. I'm expecting us to go with his arm as we're going 5 wide. Dropping back to pass. Taking a shot towards that right sideline, but it's going to be broken up. 4th and 6, and we'll bring out one of the best kickers in the entire country to take the field goal to give us a 10-point lead. And it's right down the middle. Great stuff from Cantrell. And now we'll send it deep as Memphis, with no timeouts in their pocket, only a 2-minute warning to rely on, is going to return it out of the end zone back to about the 17. But with 2 minutes and 2 seconds left on this clock, they need a touchdown and they need a field goal. 1st and 10. It looks like he's going to hand it off to his running back, who goes up the middle, straight into the heart of our defense, as we'll hit the 2-minute warning. 6 yards on 1st down brings up 2nd and 4 from the 23. I'm fully expecting Memphis to switch to the passing game as they're going on a slant. A spin gets them a 1st down across the 30. Great stuff from their quarterback, Boyd. Yet to throw a touchdown, but also yet to throw an interception. Still under 150 yards passing, however, as he's dropping back once again. A floater over the middle. And let's just give us another interception for the leader in the entire country, as he's already over double digits heading into this game, but he'll add one more tally before heading off to the NFL. A stamp on his great college career, and it looks like we'll bring out the offense to take a knee. Cheek will put down his right knee. The clock will wind down to triple zeros, and we'll end season 5, 10-3 with a bowl win. Unfortunately, we're going to lose the heart of our defense and most of our offensive line, but we've got the transfer portal to figure that out. Our final transfer portal of this rebuild, and we're going to go ahead and jump into the transfer portal. Now, after beating Memphis in our bowl game to end our season, we have simmed on to the transfer portal, where I've gone on, already set up my board. But before we jump into that, take a look at the draft results, as we had the most players get drafted in this rebuild. Our first rounder, it was the heart of our defense last season, Nicholas Clayton, who had 9 picks on the season. I thought he was up to double digits, but it seems like the interception in the bowl game was his 9th and final one. Still the most interceptions in all of college football. The heart of our defense is a huge blow for us to lose. But we also lost a right guard, a running back, an edge rusher, and a defensive tackle. More solid building blocks on that defense and some huge offensive playmakers. But we've got the transfer portal set up here. As I've gone out, we've only signed 1 5-star so far, which means the rest of the board is filled with 34 transfer prospects. A ton of talent trying to be brought in here, as it starts with a quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 3 tight ends, 6 offensive linemen to round out the offense. Now on the defensive side, More of the bulk is on this side as we have 2 edge rushers, 3 defensive tackles, 6 linebackers, 5 corners, 2 free safeties, and a strong safety to round out our board. A ton of talent needs to be brought in this season to try and push us over the top to win a national title. But we'll see who all we can land as we're going to sim on to the final week of the transfer portal, and I'll show you guys what this team will look like in our final season. Now, after going through the 4 weeks of the transfer portal, I ended up landing 33 of 34 transfer portal prospects. The first player on this board being the 5-star that we got out of high school, who unfortunately I don't think is going to be able to make much of an impact this season. But for the players we landed, we got a quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 3 tight ends, all 6 offensive linemen I was targeting. So everybody I was going for on the offense, we ended up landing. But on the defensive side is where we missed our 1 recruit. But we got 2 edge rushers, 3 defensive tackles, 5 of 6 linebackers that I was going for. But we got 5 corners, 2 free safeties, and a strong safety to round out our board. Like I said, we ended up missing out on one of the linebackers. He ended up going to Clemson. But this class got us back inside the top 30 once again. We landed at 28th, landing 1 5-star, 3 4-stars, and 30 3-stars. It's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for that top tier class, but we're bringing in a ton of transfer portal talent. So this class is better than it looks on paper. But now we're going to go ahead, upgrade this team, and then sim on to Season 6. Now, as we head into Season 6 here, it is the final season of this rebuild. We need to complete both challenges in this rebuild if we want to succeed in this rebuild. But heading into this season, I could keep saying that this is the best team that we've had all rebuild long, but that doesn't matter at this point. This is the team that needs to get it done. Now, I would be wrong saying that this isn't the best roster, as this page is full of 90-plus overall players, with some of our best players once again being at the linebacker position, with Josh O'Dowd, who was one of the 2 superstar linebackers who's now taking over as the #1 guy. He's up to a 96 overall with 90 speed. But now he's got a new partner in crime, as Stitzer's up to a 94 overall right next to him. These 2 guys should be deadly, both lurking linebackers that could lead the entire country in picks once again. But the offense, once again, is nothing to shy away from, as our best player, Nick Boatwright, was our leading receiving tight end last season. He's now up to a 96 overall, should be the best tight end in all of college football. But the big step up here was Manny Cheek. He was our starting quarterback last season. He will be this season as well, but this time he's up to a 94 overall with better physicals, better attributes, and should overall be the best quarterback that we've had in this rebuild so far. But if he can't win the Heisman this season, Uzomah, he's been here for a couple of years. He's had his chance multiple times, but now this is the season that he will get every single carry. We no longer have a duo backfield between him and someone else. So he's going to get the workload, he's getting all the carries, and he's going to get the best chance to go out and win the Heisman. He's up to a 94 overall with 90 speed and just great stats as well. Platinum tier downhill, safety valve, and arm bar as well. But the rest of this roster is fantastic as well. Like I said, 90 overalls flooding this board with high 80 overalls that might even sit the bench this season. Should be a huge step in the right direction for us this season, as we need to go out and win a national title. But now for the schedule that we'll have, as we had an SEC opponent last season, and we'll have another one in week 4. But before that, we have week 1 at 16th ranked Pittsburgh. It's a home game that we get to jump into and play before we have an FCS team at home and then UAB at home. Before heading into our second game that we'll jump into and play, it will be our SEC team at 15th ranked Texas A&M. Going to take on that team and the 12th men at Kyle Field. But then in the conference play, we've got a bye week heading to Louisiana and then home versus Georgia State before our final bye week of the season. Then we have a streak of road games at Georgia Southern, at Southern Miss, and at Arkansas State before we head into our sixth and final rivalry game of this rebuild, looking to win all six as we go back home for Troy. But then we've got home versus Texas State and home versus UL Monroe to round out our season, where we need to go back to the Sun Belt Championship game if we want a chance at going and making the college football playoffs. We cannot have another 10-3 season where we lose conference games. But now, since we're heading into our final season, we don't have to set up our recruiting board, as it doesn't matter in this final season. So we're going to go ahead and just sim on to week 1, where we'll play against a ranked Pitt team. Now, as we head into week 1 here, we are going to jump in and play this game against 16th ranked Pittsburgh. But since we don't have any recruiting updates to go throughout this season, I will give you guys a different update. It's going to be over those challenges, as we have 2 of them still to complete. The first one is we have to win a national championship, but the second one is much easier to track, as it is to win a Heisman Trophy. Unfortunately for us, we aren't in the top 5 favorites to win the award at the start of the season, as there are 2 99 overall receivers, a 97 overall quarterback, a 96 overall receiver, and a 94 overall quarterback. They're the current top 5 favorites, but I'm hoping by the end of the season, either Cheek, Azuma, one of our receivers, or even a defensive player can get inside that top 5 and take the number 1 spot. So we're going to go ahead, jump into this game to see if we can take down 16th ranked Pitt. We'll come out here on 4th and 9 to give us the first lead of the game. Second and goal, and it looks like Pitt's just going to try and bully their way up the middle. They'll find a little bit of space, and somehow he squeaks his way into the end zone, as Pitt will take their first lead of the game. First and goal from the 1. Looking for our first touchdown on this young season, and Azuma, the hopeful Heisman Trophy winner for us, finds his first touchdown of the season. Pitt will come out here on 4th and inches to send it deep to us, as we could look to take our first double-digit lead of the game if we can get a touchdown on this return. It's going to be Harris. The 98 speed running back makes a cut. There's a man on the ground, and Harris could return this punt to give us a quick 10-point lead before the end of the first quarter. 3rd and 3, and Pitt's going with an empty backfield. 4 receivers off to the left side, 1 on the right side. They're going to motion a receiver inside. They're dropping back to pass, stepping up, running out of space. Somehow escapes, breaks the tackle, and goes to the end zone to Pitt. Touchdown to give them their second of the first half. 4th and 2. Pressure coming from Pitt. We're sending it one-on-one over the top as Ojabo's going to burn his man. The transfer is going to find his way into the end zone to give us our double-digit lead right back. On 4th and goal, Pitt will make it a 1-touchdown game if they can get this field goal to go through. 2nd and 5 as we're closing in on the final seconds of this first half. Go with a handoff up the middle. Azuma breaking tackles, hurdling a man down to the 20, the 10, and he's going off in this game as he gives us our 4th touchdown of this first half. Here on 4th and 9, Pitt will make it an 11-point game. We'll come out here on 4th and goal to try and continue Azuma's career day. A handoff up the middle, breaking tackles, in for his 3rd touchdown as he's well over 150 yards rushing in this game. 4th and 13, and Pitt's going to have to punt it away. I think at this point they're running out of time on this game. Their defense is going to have to step up, but we'll get a return. Harris breaking tackles. Harris making a cut. Harris looking for his 2nd punt return touchdown. And Platinum Tier Shifty is just too broken for this Pitt defense. 4th and goal from the 3. I don't know what our defensive tackles are doing, but Pitt's dropping back to pass, going to the back of the end zone. That's a touchdown, and I guess it keeps Pitt in the game for the time. Another passing play for Pitt. stepping up, looking for somebody, going to the sideline, and where are you going? It's Gio Combs with the pick that should officially seal this game. Will come out here on 2nd and 9 to run the ball up the middle one more time and cap off a career day for Azuma, trying to break tackles, trying to spin his way out, but he'll cap off his night with 5 extra yards. A huge performance for him with almost 200 yards rushing, a ton of touchdowns on the ground, and a 45-27 win to start off this party in Mobile, Alabama. Now, after beating up Pitt in week 1 with a game where we had 2 punt return touchdowns, a ton of rushing yards, a ton of rushing touchdowns on the ground, an all-around great game from us, we have simmed on to week 4, where we'll be taking on our SEC opponent for the season in Texas A&M. They're currently 1-1, but for us, we're back inside the top 25 with a perfect 3-0 record. Because after that game against Pitt in week 1, we would have 2 more home games against lower tier opponents. The first one being against an FCS team, as we would win 59-10. And then in a similar score the next week, we would have UAB travel into town and we would win 37-10. So heading into this game against Texas A&M, our final out of conference game of the season that we need to get a win and keep us in the win column. But the big thing for us heading this week is the Heisman watch. Because after 3 great performances from our running back, Von Azuma, he's inside the top 5. Currently with 371 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground. He's having a great start, trying to sneak our way to that number 1 spot. But we've still got a whole season ahead of us, so we're going to keep us in the win column by jumping into this game to see if we can take down Texas A&M. 2nd and 2, we're keeping it on the ground, this time with Harris. 98 speed, trying to get to the outside, making a cut back inside. Harris with a beautiful move as he's down the sideline. Nobody's going to catch him, and Harris is going to go all the way to the end zone on a beautiful run to start this game. 3rd and 1, we're going to motion a receiver inside. Just need a yard, so we're going to punch it up the middle with Azuma. He's breaking his first tackle, breaking his second to walk into the end zone for our 2nd touchdown of the 1st quarter. 3rd and 6 as A&M's just shy of their own 30. They need to get across their own 35, and they're dropping back to pass. Looking for something going deep downfield. Targeting our user, and Bo Plan's going to come up with the interception, returning it back to the A&M 25. 2nd and goal from the 3 to take a commanding 3-touchdown lead in this first half. It's Azuma up the middle, right into the end zone for our 3rd rushing touchdown here in this 2nd quarter. We'll have 1st and goal from the 9 after the fumble. It's going to be a dump off to the running back Azuma, hoping he can get out there. He's got enough speed, and we're just walking into the end zone as this lead gets even better for us and even worse for A&M. 2nd and 5 now inside the red zone. The first red zone trip of the game for the Aggies as they're dropping back to pass. Likely looking for something over the middle. He's stepping up, going to the end zone one-on-one, and he's just too tall for our corner out there, and A&M finally gets on the board. 1st and 10 as we're back in the red zone. Looking to cap off the touchdown. It's Cantrell into the end zone to give us our touchdown right back from A&M. 1st and goal for the Aggies. They're dropping back to pass, looking for somebody. They'll go into the end zone, a wide open receiver to give them another touchdown before the end of the half. 2nd and goal from the 5. Trying to push our way into the end zone and run up the middle. Azuma getting fantastic blocks, and we'll walk into the end zone to start off this 2nd half with a touchdown. 1st and 10 from the 35. A&M dropping back to pass once again. Looking deep downfield, targeting our user, and Washington's going to come up with the pick. We'll come out with a 1st and goal. Under 90 seconds left in this game, and we're going to try and get one more touchdown with Azuma, and we'll get it on that final play to officially shut the door on A&M. We'll come out here, let the clock run down, hit triple zeros. A beautiful game from this offense. scoring 7 touchdowns and holding A&M to only 14 points. If you wanted a game that could prove that this team is national championship worthy, this was the exact game that we needed. As Azuma went for 140 yards on the ground, 5 touchdowns as he's likely to continue to move up in the Heisman ranks. A huge game from us. We're done with conference games, or with out of conference games, but now we're heading into conference games, and our next game will be against Troy. Now, after beating up on Texas A&M in Week 4, we have simmed on to our final battle for the belt rivalry game of this rebuild. Taking on Troy once again, as they're having their best season of the entire rebuild with a perfect 5-0 record in conference play and 8-1 overall. But unfortunately for them, they've run into the best group of 5 team in the entire country, as we are currently 18th overall with a perfect 5-0 conference record and 9-0 overall. And that's because after the Texas A&M game, we would have our first bye week of the season heading into conference play, where we'd have our smallest margin of victory of the season so far, winning only 27-10 at Louisiana. But then an offensive explosion would follow, as our first home game in conference play, it would be 44-7 against Georgia State. Then our final bye week of the season, heading into 3 straight road games, where once again our offense exploded, starting off 52-0 at Georgia Southern, then 37-9 at Southern Mississippi, and rounding it out with 44-17 at Arkansas State. So now we've got 3 straight home games to end our regular season, starting in our rivalry game against Troy. But the big thing for us is the Heisman watch this season, as unfortunately we fell out of the top 5 after that A&M game, and we are nowhere to be seen since then. It's currently being led by the Ohio State quarterback Kevin Levrone. He's up to almost 3,000 passing yards and almost 40 touchdowns after just 11 weeks. I don't even know if we can catch him in this race anymore, but we can still see we still got 3 more regular season games, and it should be a Sun Belt championship to round out our season, as long as we can stay on track. But we're looking to ruin Troy's perfect conference record with a win here in the battle for the belt rivalry matchup. 2nd and inches from the 5. To take the first lead of the game, we're going up the middle. Azuma finds the lane. Azuma finds the end zone, and we'll take a 7-0 lead in this battle for the belt game. 1st and goal from the 4. To find the end zone for the 2nd time this half is we're going to go with a pitch. Dump it off to Azuma, who finds his space on the right side. Ends up back in the end zone to give us a 14-point lead. 3rd and goal from the 5. We're dropping back. Troy sending pressure. We've got a slant over the middle for Ojabo for our first passing touchdown of this first half. 1st and 10 from the 27. Dropping back to pass. Waiting for somebody to make a play as we're going deep towards the left sideline. That's Cantrell to find the end zone, and it's complete demolish in the first half here against Troy. 3rd and 2 for Troy. About 40 seconds left. They're dropping back to pass. Watch out. Wilds fumbles the football, and it's picked up by our defense. We'll come out here with just 1 second left in this first half to make it a 31-0 shutout of Troy. 1st and 10 from the 35. Going with a handoff up the middle. Azuma breaking a tackle. He's going to keep on going. Somehow he weasels his way out of there and walks into the end zone to give us a 38-0 lead in this 4th quarter. We'll come out for a 4th and 13, but it doesn't matter. The clock will hit triple zeros. Our 6th and final battle for the belt trophy win, as we won all 6 matchups in this rebuild. But now we've got to focus on the conference championship game. As long as we can win these final 2 games, we should be able to make it back there. And hopefully we can keep on moving and lock up a spot in the college football playoffs. Now, after winning our final rivalry game of this rebuild, we have simmed on to the Sun Belt Conference Championship game where we've been taking on 9-3 James Madison. Our final conference opponent of this rebuild is the biggest championship game of this entire rebuild. If we win this game, we're in. If we lose this game, we're out, and the rebuild is over. So much on the line for us, as we are currently projected to be inside the bracket at the number 11 spot. We would be taking on 6th ranked Pittsburgh and then 3rd ranked Duke if we can win. But if you look at the number 12 spot, Tulane is currently in that final spot. It's a spot reserved for the best group of 5 team, but we're currently 12-0, which gives us a spot that's higher up than that 12th spot. But if we were to lose and Tulane were to win, they would take our spot and completely kick us out of the playoffs. So we need to win this game to stay in and stay alive. So we're going to go ahead, jump in to see if we can win our final conference game of this rebuild. We'll jump into this game with a 3rd and 4, currently up 41-14, likely locking up our spot in the college football playoffs. But for me, this was an expected result with the talent that we have on this roster, the superstar quarterback, the superstar playmakers, offensive line, defense, everybody on this roster. It was expected that we would go through the Sun Belt with no issues, unlike last year where we lost a couple of games. As a huge stiff arm there for Mazuma, he's getting another broken tackle as he's inside the 20. But a game that we've been up by basically 2 touchdowns or more for the entire time, really ran away with it in the 4th quarter as we're closing in on the 2-minute warning, and we'll hit the 2-minute warning. But for us, we should have a first-round matchup in the college football playoffs. It's projected to be Pitt right now, but if something were to happen in the ACC championship or around the league, as Cheek is going to go off and running, he's inside the 5. Like I was talking about, if anything were to change, we could be playing somebody else. I don't expect us to get a home game, but we need to start winning. This roster is too much talent to be losing in this final season, and we need to start playing up to the competition of the big dogs in all of college football, as that run will lose yards on that play. We've got 2nd and goal from the 7. We'll likely have one more play before this game is over. JMU's basically given up, and Azuma lost a ton of yards there. As I was actually Doomerville in the game, he lost a chunk of yards, about 5, but the clock hits 2, the clock hits 1, and now it hits triple zeros. We are the Sun Belt Conference Championship game champions, a perfect, undefeated regular season. But now we've got to go throughout the playoffs to see if we can have an undefeated overall season and bring home a national title. Now, after beating up on JMU in the conference championship game, we have made the college football playoffs. Our first round matchup, we are still the 11 seed, but this time we'll be taking on Ole Miss, as Pitt would fall in the rankings, I'm guessing after losing the ACC championship game. So we will be traveling to 6th ranked Ole Miss. They're currently 11-2, and if we were to beat them, we would play 3rd ranked USC. Our path to the national championship has been set. We've got to win it in this final season to at least complete one of our challenges, because unfortunately we did not come home with a Heisman Trophy. The Ohio State quarterback would end up winning it, 4,200 yards, 48 passing touchdowns. We just could not compare to that. As I'll look at our stats for the season, Cheek would have a solid season, almost 3,500 yards and 32 touchdowns with only 2 interceptions, but he was nowhere near the quarterback's level from Ohio State. And on the rushing side of things, Azuma had a fantastic season with 1,400 yards and 25 rushing touchdowns. So a great season, but just not enough from one player to get the Heisman Trophy. So now the only challenge that's obtainable in this rebuild is to get the national championship, and we're looking to start that run with a win at Ole Miss. Now we'll jump into this game with a 1st and 10 for Ole Miss. They're currently trailing by 10 points, and they're going with play action on the first play over the top of the defense, a jump ball that gets broken up, a huge play for our safeties up there. But Ole Miss really hasn't had much of a fighting chance in this game, as they did make it 10-10 just after halftime, but we've scored 10 straight points, and now they're out of bounds after just a yard. I believe they're within field goal range. Don't know how good their kicker is, but he should be able to make this about a 46, 47-yard field goal. Going over the middle once again, 4th and inches, and they're hurrying back to the line. Not using any timeouts, wanting to save that after they score. As they're dropping back, going over the middle of the field, a jump ball that gets broken up. Too high of a ball for the tight end to haul it down. And now it's 1st and 10 for our offense to shut the door on Ole Miss and advances to the next round as a handoff is stuffed. But Azumah have been held to under 50 yards rushing on 12 carries, and there's the first timeout for Ole Miss in this 4th and final quarter. 3 minutes and 6 seconds left on the clock. Cheek going to squat down, and then he's going to motion out Azumah. Hand it off to him up the middle through the heart of the defense. He'll get over 50 yards rushing, and there's Ole Miss's second timeout of this 4th and final quarter. 3rd and 7. If Ole Miss wants a chance of getting back in this game, they need to stop us. But Cheek is going to drop back to pass, going over the top in double coverage. It's broken up, swatted out of bounds, and we'll bring out our punt team to send it deep. We're stuck at our own 25, looking to get this ball across midfield, and it looks like it's going to go all the way down to the Ole Miss 26, and they're stopped at the 31. A huge punt all the way back inside Ole Miss territory. And now they'll have 1st and 10 to go down and score with 2 minutes and 50 seconds left. Play action. Over the middle, that's a 1st down. Gets David Hicks over 200 yards passing for Ole Miss. But now they're hurrying things back up to the line. 1st and 10 from the 44. He's dropping back to pass. Going very quickly over the middle of the field. That's a big tight end. Another 1st down as they cross midfield. Hurry up offense once again. 1st and 10, they're dropping back to pass. We're sending a blitz off the edge. They're going over the middle. That's another 1st down. As they're going to continue to go with hurry up offense, trying to avoid that 2-minute warning. As we're inside 10 seconds left before that warning. Just direct run up the middle. He's diving for 5, and we're going to hit the 2-minute warning. They're going to try and hurry it back up, but they're not going to have enough time to do so. We've hit the 2-minute warning, and one defensive stop will end Ole Miss's season. 2nd and 5, they're bunching the line. It's play action. Going towards that right side, it's broken up. He might have dropped that before he got hit. But now it's 3rd and 5 for the Rebels. At our 28 to the end zone, they're dropping back to pass, going to the sideline. He's short. A yard short of that 1st down mark, and they're going to bring out the field goal team to make it a 7-point game and give them a chance. The ball is down, the kick is up, and it's right down the middle. Ole Miss will make it a touchdown game, and they're going with an onside. And we're going to recover it on the first bounce. He's going to get tripped up at the Ole Miss 40. And we'll come out, need a 1st down to ice the game. Cheek going with a handoff to Azumah, trying to go up the middle. He's breaking the 1st tackle, not the 2nd, as he gets pushed back. And there's Ole Miss's final time out of the game. Just a couple yards to go. We should be in field goal range if we're unable to convert a 1st. As we're keeping on the ground with Cheek. Cheek to the left side. Keep the ball in your hands as he's tripped up after 5. 3rd and 2 for the game. A 1st down ends it. A 4th down will likely force us to take a field goal. Cheek dropping back to pass, going to the right side to the big tight end. He converts the 1st, and we'll bring out the offense to take a knee. A 20-13 win in the 1st round of the college football playoffs as we finally get a win in the college football playoffs in this rebuild. It took until year 6 to get our very first, but it was well worth the wait. But now we've got to head on to our 2nd round matchup. Now, after taking down Ole Miss in a fairly low-scoring matchup in the first college football playoff game, we will be taking on 3rd-ranked USC in the Rose Bowl. Now, for the other games in the 1st round, Tulane would get destroyed by Notre Dame 44-10. Pittsburgh would destroy Oregon 56-35, and Clemson would win by a touchdown 24-17 against Miami. So if we were to get the upset win in the Rose Bowl against USC, we would either take on second-ranked Duke or seventh-ranked Clemson. A huge matchup for us, but to keep advancing in these college football playoffs on the goal to reach a national championship, we've got to jump into this game to see if we can get a win in the Rose Bowl against USC. We'll jump into this game. A 3rd and 12 for our offense's Cheek is going to go with play action. Taking a shot as that's a first down. Completely sucking the energy out of this USC crowd as we're currently up by 10 points. They needed a stop there to kick us off the field, and we're inside 4 minutes, closing in on 3 minutes. I don't know what's going on here. The clock hits 2 minutes and 40 seconds, and we're finally snapping it to the tight end. That's another first down. That's a USC timeout. And that may have officially shut the door as we're inside 2.5 minutes now. We're within field goal range to make it a 2-touchdown game as we're going with a handoff to Uzomah. He's finding space. He's finding the first down, breaking tackles. And there's another USC timeout. And all the South Alabama fans understand that we're likely going on to the next round. 2.5 minutes left in this game. 1st and 10 in the red zone. Going with a handoff to Uzomah up the middle. He may have gotten a yard out of that. He might have just stayed put. But there's the final USC timeout. They've only got the 2-minute warning to stop the clock from now on. A handoff. He's going to fake it. Cheek's going to take off and run. He's got 40 yards of open space, and he's going to walk into the end zone to shut the door on USC, and we're going to the next round of the college football playoffs. A PAT to make it 31-14, and I don't even think it's possible for USC to score 3 touchdowns to try and get back within this game. As now they're going to send it deep once again. Returning it from their end zone is USC. Back towards the middle of the field, and he's stuffed just after the 15 at about the 16. And their offense will come out here. 2 minutes and 19 seconds on the clock for the greatest comeback in college sports history. Going over the middle of the field, that's a wide open receiver who's across the 40. Has Griffin, the USC quarterback, 260 yards and a touchdown, but 2 costly interceptions. Selling USC's game as they're dropping back to pass once again after this 2-minute warning. He's going to step up, truck our corner. He'll get 5 yards. That was an aggressive truck from Griffin. But now he's got 2nd and 5 with 1:56 on the clock. Play action. He's going to dump it off to that running back who tries to spin out of a tackle. He gets caught on the elbow, but he gets wrapped up, taken down after only 2 yards, and it's 3rd and 3 for USC. 2 more plays left between their season, but they're going deep. It's broken up, 4th and 3. This could be the final offensive play of USC's season, the final play of their offense in this rebuild. They're dropping back, going underneath. That's a first down, keeps their game alive. But they've got 90 seconds left. They're hurrying back to the line. Griffin making some adjustments as he's dropping back to pass once again. A ton of time in the pocket, but he's just going to go underneath, and we're there instantly to pull him down after 4. 2nd and 6 is hurry up offense once again. This USC offense is likely tired at this point, but they're still firing over the middle of the field. They're inside the 25 at about the 24, and they're right back to the line. 2 running backs in the backfield with just over 60 seconds left. They're dropping back to pass, going over the middle of the field once again, and they're inside the 5. Griffin's now over 300 yards passing, and they're getting back to the line to try and get into the end zone on this play. They need to if they want a chance of getting back in this game. 1st and goal. Dropping back to pass, a ton of time. Watch out from behind. He's able to break the tackle and walks into the end zone for a USC touchdown as they're getting ever so close back into this game. But with 50 seconds left, is it enough? A PAT to make it a 10-point game as it's up and right through. And now they'll have to kick an onside. If we recover, the game is over. It will be recovered by the second line. He's down at the 39, and we'll bring out our offense to take a knee. Confirm our Rose Bowl champions as the clock hits triple zeros. We've won our second round matchup against USC, and now we've got a date with either Duke or Clemson in our third round matchup. Now, after beating Clemson in the Rose Bowl, we have simmed on to our third round matchup against 7th ranked Clemson, who's currently 12-2, and they would beat Duke in their second round matchup 51-27. But that wasn't the only upset. We had an upset against USC, and there was 2 other upsets on the other side of the bracket. All 4 games ended in an upset, as number 8 Pitt would win against number 1 Georgia 50-42, and 5th ranked Notre Dame would win 56-31 against 4th ranked Ohio State. 4 upsets, all top 4 seeds are gone from the playoffs. So now we're taking on 7th ranked Clemson, and if we were to win this game and play in the national championship game, we would take on either 5th ranked Notre Dame or 8th ranked Pittsburgh. But we've got to win this game. So we're going to jump into this game to see if we can get a win in the Cotton Bowl against the Clemson Tigers. We'll jump into this game with a 2nd and 8 from the Clemson 10. To shut the door on this game as Cheek is dropping back the pass. He's stepping up, going over the middle of the field. That's a first down. First and goal from the 1. In a game where we're currently up by 11 points. Looking to find the end zone to claim our spot in the national championship. A keeper with Cheek on the ground. He's going to walk into the end zone, and that may have just confirmed our spot in the national championship game. It's been complete dominance the entire time, as we really haven't fallen below a 2-score lead since the first quarter. The PAT that makes it a 42-24 game. And just like USC, Clemson's going to need one of the greatest college sports comebacks of all time to win this game as they'll return it from the end zone. Back to the 15. He's going to spin out of a tackle, gets across to the 19, where Clemson will start their drive. First and 10 with under 2.5 minutes left in this game. They're going over the middle. He hit a lineman in the head. Off the top of the helmet, it falls incomplete. And now it is 2nd and 10 for the Tigers. Their season is on the line here as they're dropping back, going to go underneath to the running back who gets a burst of speed. He gets 8 yards and is out of bounds as Godwin's up to 123 yards with a touchdown, but a costly interception as they're dropping back to pass once again, taking a shot. I feel like that could have been intercepted, but instead, Clemson will get to the 40 as we're closing in on the 2-minute warning. They're likely going to get a playoff, and they will. Dropping back to pass, going underneath, and that might have only gotten them a yard on that play. A dump off to the running back is not what you're looking for. They actually get 2 yards, and now they'll set up 5 wide. Dropping back to pass, going over the middle very quickly to the logo, but trucked back, only getting to the 47. 3rd and 3 as we're inside 2 minutes. Another pass for Clemson. A ton of time in the pocket to throw it out to the sticks. 1st and 10 from our 48 as they've now crossed midfield. We've got 2 receivers at the top of the screen, 2 receivers at the bottom, and they're dropping back to pass, going to the top of the screen where they'll find a receiver. He's down the sideline outside at the 30. He'll get out of bounds, but there's 90 seconds left in this Clemson season. 1st and 10, it's another pass. Once again, a very quick ball for the first down as they're inside the red zone at about the 19, just across. 1st and 10, another pass for Clemson, an in-breaking route that gets them 4 yards, and now there's 80 seconds left in this game. The clock continues to roll. Clemson back to the line. They snap it with 1:12 on the clock. a ton of time going over the middle of the field. That's a first down. They're inside the 5, barreling to the end zone for a Clemson touchdown. And the door is slowly creaking open for Clemson, but they need to answer back. They've got a PAT, and then this onside coming up could determine their season. The kick is good. The game is now back to an 11-point game. But it's an onside for their season. The kick is up, recovered by the second line. As long as he doesn't fumble, he goes down at the 41, and we'll bring out our offense, needing a first down to ice this game. We'll motion the running back to the left side, going with a handoff. It's a zoom up the middle, trying to find some space, but he gets taken down, and there's a Clemson timeout. Their second of this fourth quarter. Now with a minute left in this game, trying to shave off as much clock time as we can as we're going out to the left side. Underneath, and there's another Clemson timeout as Cheek is over 300 yards passing with 4 passing touchdowns, but it doesn't seem to matter as we'll bring out the offense to take a knee. It'll get the clock down to about 18 seconds, where we'll take a field goal to make it a 2-touchdown game. All this valuable Clemson time is running off the clock as we'll send it deep, and Cantrell buries it down the middle of the field goal. And now we'll send it deep with 17 seconds left. Clemson needs 2 touchdowns. But they're stopped at the 15, and Clemson's got to go to the end zone on this play, get a touchdown, get an onside, and go to the end zone again. A near impossible task unless you're playing on rookie mode. But this is on Heisman, and he's running out of time and gets dismantled by O'Connor. Everybody's got to hurry back to the line, but the receivers are 40 yards downfield. They're getting back with 3 seconds. The game is going to be over after this play. He's stepping up, running out of time, running backwards, and there's back-to-back sacks to end the Cotton Bowl. We'll get a 45-31 win against Clemson, and now we've got 1 game left in this rebuild. To complete the national championship challenge, it will be against either Pitt or Notre Dame. Now, after taking down Clemson in our third-round Cotton Bowl matchup, we have simmed on to the national championship game where we'll be taking on 8th-ranked Pittsburgh. They're currently 14-0 and went undefeated in conference play just as we did. But their path to the college football national championship has been much different than ours. We've been very solid on defense, but Pittsburgh has put up over 150 points on offense in just 3 games. They would win their matchup against Notre Dame 46-42 in overtime, while we would win 45-31 in regulation. So it sets up an 11-versus-8 matchup in the national championship. I don't know if anybody could have predicted this heading into this college football playoff. But it's happened now. We've got to go on. We've got to jump into this game to see if we can bring home the national championship. We'll jump into this game with a 2nd and 6 for Pitt. They're dropping back, going with a pass. It's broken up. Dakota Butt's already almost at 300 yards passing with 3 touchdowns in a game where his defense hasn't helped him much. 28-21 is your current score. As they're dropping back to pass once again, going to the right side of the field. That's a first down, and that gets Butts over 300 yards passing. But a game where we've been winning for some of it. It's been a mostly back and forth game. Pitt's taking the lead. We've taken the lead. Pitt takes it back. We've currently had the lead. 28-21 after a touchdown, and they're going deep down the sideline. That's across the 40, down to the 35, and they're within field goal range at the least. But they're going to hurry back up to the line as we're inside the final 3 minutes of this national championship game. Butts is dropping back, going over the middle. That's going to be 4 yards for that offense. But somebody on our defense needs to step up. Get a stop as Pitt's going to change some things around. We're shifting the field from the right hash. They're going back to the pass, out to the right side. That's a first down, down the sideline, and they're out of bounds at the 11. That gets Butts over 350 yards, And the holes in this secondary are being shown in this national championship game. The problems we've faced all season long are showing here in this final game of our rebuild. But they're dropping back to pass once again, going to the left side. That's a completion. That's a first down, and that's a Pitt touchdown. And they could tie this game up at 28 with a PAT. We're under 2.5 minutes now, and we should have a tie game, because that's right down the middle. And we've got a 28-28 tie in the final game of this rebuild. And now Pitt's going to send it deep to one of the best return men in the entire country in Harris. He's going to juke back inside. I don't even think he got across the 15, and he actually did. He got back to the 17, where we'll start our drive for one of the best offenses in South Alabama history. As they're dropping back, Pitt's sending pressure, and they're getting to Cheek for the sack, a loss of 6 on the very first play. As soon as I was trying to hype up this offense, give the appreciation to Cheek, who's technically the best quarterback in South Alabama history. He's broken all the records, next to Azuma, who's also broken all the records for a running back, as we're going out to the right side. And if that's Cantrell, which I believe it is, he's broken all the wide receiver records, except for Jalen Tolbert, who was fantastic for South Alabama. But now, on 3rd and 11, we're going to need somebody to make a play. We're going deep down the right sideline. We've got an open man, and that gets Cheek just shy of 350 yards passing, as he's up to 2 passing touchdowns. But we're going to hurry back up to the line. 1st and 10, as we're under 80 seconds left in this national championship. A ton of time for Cheek. He's going underneath the safety guard, the running back out of the backfield. There's our first timeout, as we just need about another first down or 2 to get within field goal range for one of the best kickers in the entire country. As we're going over the middle, that's a first down. We're inside the 35, breaking tackles down to the 31, and there's a timeout for Pitt. Realizing they could be running out of time in this national championship, as we're at 1 minute and 6 seconds left. We're going to hand it off to Azuma, who's stiff-arming a man up the middle. He's inside the 30, down to the 26, and there's another Pitt timeout. 1 minute and a second left in this final game of the rebuild. A handoff up the middle, breaking his first tackle, breaking the second, and getting a first down, and there's the final timeout for Pitt. 58 seconds between us and possible national champions. We just need to make a field goal or score a touchdown. We're going to keep it on the ground with Cheek. As long as he doesn't fumble the football, he'll juke back inside. He's inside the 10 at about the 7, and we'll have 1st and goal. We're getting back to the line, though, with 40 seconds left. Cheek going to hand it off up the middle to Azuma. He's breaking tackles inside the 5, pushing his way to the end zone to give us a lead in the final seconds of the national championship. It's Azuma into the end zone for his 3rd rushing touchdown of the game, and we're flying here. 35-28 after this PAT, as long as we can make it. It'll give Pitt 33 seconds to go down and try and tie this game up, as that ball is perfect, and now we're sending it back. A perfect kick that will land just shy of the end zone, and they'll return it from about the 1, where he's shoved back before he can get across the 15. And it's 85 yards between Pitt and the end zone to tie this game up with 30 seconds left. They need a magical moment from their star quarterback, Butts, who's stepping up and getting swarmed. A sack and a loss of 3. Everybody who's already 40 yards downfield is going to have to hurry back to the line. 3 receivers at the bottom of the screen, and they're snapping it immediately. Butts is stepping up. He's going towards that sideline, but he's going to overthrow his man. And with 14 seconds left, Pitt is running out of time in this national championship. Now they have to go 87 yards as they're dropping back. Butts is going to step up, but watch out. There's another sack for this defense, and they've got 4th and 12, hurrying back up to the line. 3, 2, 1. They get the snap off. This is the final play. Butts running out of time. Mick Burrows gets to him for his 3rd sack of this national championship, and we have done it. After 6 seasons, we have brought this group of 5 team, South Alabama, to the national championship for the first time in program history. A great accomplishment from some great players, Cheeks, Azuma, Cantrell, and everybody along our defense. Great pieces bringing home a national championship. And what a way to end college football 26, as the new game, college football 27, is coming out very soon. So our next rebuild will be on college football 27.